Matt on. As it's now 8:35, I'd like to call the Law and Government Committee meeting to order at 8:35. Kathy, can I ask you to do roll call, please?
Sauger. Wagner.
Here.
Hendricks. Campbell.
Here.
Kunkel.
Here.
Shorten.
Here.
Altough.
Here. Thank you. May I have a motion to approve the minutes as presented? Ms. Campbell, seconded by Ms. Wagner. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Next item on the agenda is the public comment. There is no public comment.
Vote. Please.
Oh, I apologize. Can we take a motion to allow Mr. Kunkel to participate via electronics? Ms. Wagner, Ms. Campbell, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Mr. Kunkel, welcome.
Thank you.
New business. There is no new business. Legislative update. Thank you, Alicia, for sending that ahead of time. Is there anything you want to address in particular? Maybe the hearings?
Yes. Good morning. For legislative today, there are going to be 3 upcoming hearings to discuss transit reform, namely a bill that was filed by the Senate Transportation Committee, and it was about consolidating some of the, all of the regional service transportation boards into one transit agency, the Metropolitan Mobility. Under the Metropolitan Mobility Act, there will be 3 hearings coming up, one tomorrow at 10 a.m. at the Elgin Community College. Chairman Buehler has been asked to speak and provide, McHenry County's input on the matter. The other 2 meetings will occur on September 18th at 10 a.m. and that will be in Northwestern Cook, and October 16th in Springfield. Is there anything else you would like?
Anybody have any questions? No, thank you again very much for paying attention and providing the info.
Thank you. That's pretty much all I've got. It's kind of quiet. It's kind of quiet at this time because the feds aren't in session or Springfield.
Right. Thank you. Moving on to the routine consent agenda. Does anybody have anything that they would like removed? Or can I have a motion to approve the
7.3, please.
Certainly.
Can I just see that real quick? Yeah.
7.3 is the 4 new positions?
Can I do 7.2?
Yes. Thank you. So can I have a motion to approve 7.1 of the routine consent agenda? Mr. Shorten, seconded by Ms. Wagner. Can we have a roll call, please?
Kunkel.
Yes.
Campbell.
Yes.
Wagner.
Yes.
Shorten.
Yes.
Altough.
Yes. Moving on to 7.2. Would that be Dan?
Yes.
I can't pull mine up. That's fine.
Is there a specific question?
Yeah, I just didn't really see in there, it says over 30,000, you don't really give a total amount, either in the description or in the resolution.
Do we have an idea, Dan, of what the total cost is going to be year by year, or at least an estimate of what it's going to do to the budget? It's just over.
Yeah, actually, it should be part of the packet. I thought I added that in. It should have been the Excel spreadsheet.
I think he did too.
Did I?
Let me
That's
bring
possible,
that
I
up.
just missed it.
Here in the yellow.
Give me just a second.
Oh, no, you're right, I did see that. That's fine. Yeah.
So it's 3, 4.
And 5, yeah, exactly. Can you go back to the first one?
Annual, right there, 42.
So,
3.
Yeah, it looks like Westlaw Classic will be $42,485 for year 1.
so it is the classic, it's not, because you have a Westlaw Precision with, is that?
Yeah, the Westlaw Precision with Co-Counsel, that's their artificial intelligence generative product. We're going to evaluate that because we believe there's an opportunity there, but we've not seen it. So we'll proceed with Westlaw Classic to begin with, and then we'll take a look at the other product.
Okay, I think that's what was confusing to me because of the 2 Westlaw. Thank you.
You're very welcome.
So is that a motion then to approve 7.2?
I move.
And seconded by Mr. Shorten. Can we have a roll call, Kath? And can we also note that Mr. Hendricks has joined us this morning?
Wagner,
Yes.
Kunkel,
Yes.
Campbell,
Yes.
Hendricks,
Yes.
Shorten,
Yes.
Altough.
Yes. Moving on to 7.3, Ms. Wagner,
Yes, I'll make a motion.
seconded by Mr. Hendricks.
So I just had some questions when it comes to the changes. You know, I definitely think it's necessary that we pay our employees a competitive wage. Just wondering, is there turnover in this area?
Actually, no. As a matter of fact, every one of these individuals has been with us at least a couple of years. The longest is 9.
Okay, wonderful. And so out of curiosity, the case manager 4N, why is that not retroactive when the other 3 are?
So those new duties that she's going to be taking on will not occur until this is approved.
Oh,
So
okay.
the duties that she will take on to move her from a 4N to a 6N have not occurred yet.
Okay, and then a couple financial questions. So this amount, there's 3832 for a total increase. How is that going to, it's absorbed into the current budget. Is there a change in the IMRF also? I mean, I assume it's slight, but.
Yes, yeah, any of the ancillary costs would be part of that as well. I just included the salary.
Okay, so then last question. So this means it will use, because it's incorporated in this year's budget, next year you're going to have to increase your budget for this?
I don't think so.
Not beyond the normal.
Normal?
The
Yeah,
normal
not the
growth
growth.
of wages,
Okay,
but not beyond that.
yeah, all right. That's it.
I jumped up to the table. I wanted to affirm that Dan and his team have worked a lot on these 4 positions with Suzanne Ziebert. Suzanne is in New Hampshire this weekend, or this week visiting her son, but she did make a point to me before she left to affirm that she's supportive of these. She and Dan have worked a lot on this. It's kind of a shakeout of the non-union wage adjustment that we did in June, when effective July 1. Sometimes when you do that, some other things bubble up.
Got it.
That is what we are reacting to.
That's fine. I don't have a problem with it. I just wanted to ask some questions. Yep.
Thank you. I'm assuming that's a motion then to approve 7.3?
Yes.
Seconded by Mr. Shorten. Again, Kath, can I have a roll call, please?
Hendricks,
Yes.
Wagner,
Yes.
Campbell,
Yes.
Kunkel,
Yes.
Shorten,
Yes.
Altough.
Yes. Now moving on to our all-time favorite stuff to do is the budget reviews. And the first one is court administration. There were documents that were provided to us in the packet, but Dan, do you want to?
Sure. First of all, thank you for allowing me to attend remotely from Denver, so certainly appreciate that. What we're presenting today is going to be really kind of vanilla. We are providing you with a maintenance budget. The only thing we've done is we've moved some of our line items around to meet the demands and match some expenses, but we believe that what we were appropriated last year will certainly cover what we need to do this year. We do have a couple of challenges, and I do want to bring those up. We do have 3 supplementals. The first one is the development of a forensic health assessment center, and I want to explain that very briefly. We are required by statute, judges are required by statute, to do and have certain assessments done prior to sentencing. It's not discretionary, it's not optional, it's absolutely required. This year, we're going to spend somewhere in the neighborhood of $150,000 on these assessments. We've gone to RFP, we've had them bid out, we've tried to control those costs as much as we possibly can. We believe it might be time for us to start doing those assessments internally. Other counties have done this. It's not new or innovative. We would be able to redirect some of that funding that we're sending out into the community back internally to pay for at least one position, we believe the psychologist. We've got some questions that we need to answer on this. So we've had conversations with Peter and Carrie on that. We believe that we would need 2 additional positions. These would be master's level social workers to support the psychologists to do the various assessments. We do approximately 150 or so of these assessments every year. So about 1 every 2 days or thereabouts. So this is a big ask. It's probably the largest ask that we've made in the 17 years I've been here. And again, we'll continue our conversations with Pete and Carrie and anybody that would be impacted by this, because we do want to make sure that we're, being mindful of, the taxpayers' dollars in the budget as well. The other one is a guardian ad litem position, and this one affects the juvenile court primarily. We have special public defender or special appointed counsel that are conflict attorneys. When there's a conflict with the public defender's office, they're appointed to hear these cases. Well, in the juvenile abuse cases, it's not uncommon to require multiple attorneys on a single case. And what we have seen over the years, back in 2017, we had 75 juvenile abuse cases. Well, then, unfortunately, we had a very horrible event take place in McHenry County, and we've seen a gradual increase in the number of these cases. This year, I'm projecting north of 150 of these juvenile abuse cases will be filed with us. These are time-consuming cases. These are cases that involve children as victims of abuse. It could involve a mother, a father, multiple fathers if there's multiple children. Everybody gets an attorney, and the children get a guardian ad litem. To put it in perspective, our special appointed counsel that are assigned to juvenile cases, our newest attorney, who has been on the job for 2 months or less, already has 61 cases. Another attorney has 111, another is 80, and another is 84. So we believe that this is something else that we need to explore. This would be a full-time attorney as a guardian ad litem. Now you might ask, well, what if we just got somebody to be the guardian ad litem and they were appointed and not appointed attorney? Well, the statute says that if the guardian ad litem is not an attorney, you have to appoint an attorney for the guardian ad litem. So hence the reason for the need for an attorney. We've got questions about this one too, about potential conflicts or how it has to be structured. Does it need to be independent of the court? So there's some things that we need to work out, but we wanted to get this also on the radar, just in case this is a direction that we think we need to go. So we'll continue those conversations with Peter and County Administration. The last one is for our Law Library and Self-Help Center. That's entirely funded by fees that are collected on the civil side of case filings. We've got a healthy fund balance. We're asking for $20,000 for furniture upgrades and things that will enhance the experience of anybody who uses those services. Other than that, that's our presentation.
Hey, Dan, and I know that they're different and some, you said that they all take time. What's the average you want to shoot for per guardian? I mean, how many cases? Is 60 normal? Is that high? I have no reference.
There really isn't a metric for how many of these types of cases. Ideally, I would like to see it a little more balanced. 111 for the one is, I think, too much. That's one of the things that we want to look at too, because we do have additional ones that are on the criminal side. So there may be some opportunities there without having to bring on a new position, but at the same time, we don't want to make a problem in juvenile court also a problem in the felony courtrooms and misdemeanor courtrooms.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Mr. Shorten?
And maybe I wasn't listening properly, but is this a new statutory requirement or something that was being done before, but now we're just changing the way that we're doing it?
The assessments?
Well, yeah, the assessments
No, the assessments have been required, especially for the sex offender evaluations, fitness evaluations, and DUI evaluations. Those have been statutorily required for years.
Okay. And
It's just the cost and what we're seeing is just growing, and I think that it might be time to do something a little bit different.
This is a big deal.
Yes.
I very much appreciated Dan and Judge Camille and Judge Feedier kind of coming over and talking with us about this. But there's a lot of unanswered questions yet. We know there's a need, but how these clinicians would be folded into the organization, at what pace. Dan used the word explore. I don't think we're going to be ready to spin this up on December 1. And it's daunting to think about $300,000+ additional dollars, but it's not all additional. Dan did reference that we're spending $150,000 now. But how it all comes together, we'll work with the 22nd Circuit on what that looks like. It's not going to likely be December 1. It's something that we're going to work on next year, and if it will be involved in this committee if we get to that point. So hopefully it's not a roadblock to bring the FY25 budget over the finish line, but it's something we cannot lose track of. And the same is with the guardian ad litem. We have 7 special public defenders now, or 6? 7. We're paying them $49,000 each. We did an increase on that this year from 41 to 49. So again, we're spending money on this already, trying to figure out the most effective way to spend money on this services.
And we anticipate that the trends that we're seeing of increased reporting and need for those types of services are going to increase. Yes? Okay.
I would say yes, especially what happened earlier this year, with involving a caseworker from DCFS. They're going to be ultra conservative.
Sure. That's just noting. Thank you. Any other questions?
I
Ms.
do,
Wegner?
yeah.
Sure.
Bear with me, just out of curiosity, some of these. So I was looking at the performance indicators of the specialty courts, and just curious, why I'm surprised that mental health court is projected to decrease, and then DUI is projected to increase. How do you get to those numbers?
Let me jump to those real quick.
Because I can tell you, mental health is supposed to go from 100 to 90.
Yes. So the way we look at this is that anybody that is in the program, we count, and we try to estimate how many different individuals will be referred. So we just think that, based upon what was actually done in 2023 and kind of where we're at in 2024, that there will be a reduction going into 2025. So we do look at the trend. Now the DUI, we are expanding that. We have had a wait list to get participants into that program. And so that's why we think that we'll eliminate that wait list and get individuals into the program going into 2025.
Okay. I was just very surprised to hear about mental health court decreasing with the trends going on in society right now. Also, one of your...
You're correct.
Let's see here. So then we go down to the budget for court administration. Under the 94 governmental line, there's a 52% increase in the governmental revenue. Can you tell me where that comes from?
So that part of that is the Family Violence Coordinating Council and the one that was literally just in front of you.
Yeah.
Which grew, and it's the other governmental one we have. Courtney, can you help me out with that? I don't have that right in front of me.
Yes, that'll be the interpreters.
Oh, interpreters.
Oh, that's right.
Wow.
Yeah, so we get dollars back from the Administrative Office of Illinois Courts for interpreters who are certified. So we pay them originally, and then we get reimbursed back from the AOIC.
Got it. Okay. Yeah, those interpreters are amazing, by the way, to be able to
Oh, they're
simultaneously.
absolutely, yeah, absolutely phenomenal what they do.
And then we go down to specialty court fund. Governmental is significantly increased. Is that due to grants also?
Absolutely.
Okay.
We have pending a couple of grant applications that are still out there. It looks good based upon what we've gotten back, so that's what we're anticipating. So we went ahead and put it in the budget for 2025.
Okay, and just one more question, I promise. So on court services, personnel expenses expected to decrease from 2.4 to 2.3. Not quite $100,000. I know it's a small percentage, but I'm surprised it's going to decrease.
You said court services?
43, court services.
Oh, okay. Seth will take care of that one for you.
Yeah.
Oh,
He's
sorry.
next.
I'm
He's next.
That's
I'm
okay. That's okay.
clicking too fast. Sorry about that. Thank you for all your answers.
Of course, anytime. I appreciate them. Questions?
Are we good? Do we have a consensus then to move this forward to the full board?
Yes.
Okay, consensus granted. Court services. Thank you, Dan.
Thank you all. I'm going to head to my conference. Seth, I'll touch bases with you later, okay?
Thanks, Dan. Hi, everybody.
Welcome.
Morning.
Hi. As we get started, two things. One, I did want to just follow up on Dan's. As far as the evaluations, we do see clients pre and post disposition that have to wait exceptionally long to get those evals. I think some of it is that clinicians went to private virtual, like BetterHealth and those kinds of things. So that's an impact to the ability to sentence, because like Dan said, some of those evaluations are required before sentencing can occur. On the post-disposition side, though, it just means a delay in service to the clients who need it. And so it is important to look at least the ability to do that in-house. The other thing that I wanted to address is how I look. I had oral surgery last week and there were some complications with it, so this is the result of that, but I'm on the mend now. Still got a bunch of stitches in my mouth, so. We are putting forward a maintenance budget as well for 2025. The biggest unknown for us is our upcoming collective bargaining negotiations, which are starting here in September. And we'll see where those go. The important thing there, though, is that the Administrative Office of Illinois Courts reimburses a good chunk of our salaries. This, for the state fiscal year 2025, our allocation was $1.7 million plus. Out of the 2.3 million total in salary expense, $1.7 million plus is a huge chunk of that. So, and we will work with the AOIC, depending on how the collective bargaining agreement ends, to see that any new monies or additional salaries are reimbursed accordingly. But that is statutory obligation for them to reimburse salaries. It's not 100% of all salaries, but it is a significant chunk.
AOIC also plays the lead in negotiating on the labor contract.
Yes, our attorney is an AOIC attorney. Thank you. And the allocation for this year does include COLA increases, so they factored that in as a consideration when they made the allocations. We do have one new line item that we're putting in our budget for client programming, but it was already accounted for in our proposed budget, so the numbers that you see in front of us are exactly what we're asking for. We do have kind of a supplemental of sorts in that we want to buy 2 new vehicles. The plus side, though, is that we get to use probation service fee interest income to make that purchase. The state of Illinois does not restrict probation service fees in the same way when we're talking about interest income earned. And so we're able to use our interest income to make those purchases this year, and that's why we have 2 new vehicles in there. Our officers go out and see clients all over the county, sometimes out of county when clients are placed elsewhere, and also to attend conferences throughout the state of Illinois. And so, you know, some of our vehicles are getting upwards of 80,000 plus miles, and were bought in 2008. They weren't great vehicles in 2008, being honest, Chevy Cobalts. So we're looking to upgrade those, 2 of them at least. Beyond that, I'll answer any questions that you have.
Kelly?
Yes,
Excuse
the
me,
one
Ms.
that I
White.
asked the wrong department.
Okay.
Personnel,
Yes.
how are you able to expect a decrease in your personnel funding?
Let's see, from 2024 to 2025.
Yes.
I believe that would be answered by, I think we're down to about our right number. For a long time, we had 52 employees in the office. Now we're at 43. But because of turnover and all that, which is a real challenge for everybody these days, we have months sometimes where positions are vacant, and that's money that just sits there. And so we try to account for that and know that, and give you guys a real number, or as close to as real number as we could, knowing that sometimes we have those vacancies which leave money on the table.
Do you have an estimated percentage of turnover?
Higher than we like. This year in particular is higher than we'd like. I'd say we've had 7 or 8 this year, which is a rough number. We're losing a number of people to the surrounding counties that pay a little bit more than us in the PO wages, which will be part of the negotiation, I'm sure. And, you know, while the union's going to advocate certainly for what they believe, I think, you know, working with Pete and Carrie and Suzanne, we're optimistic that we can put a salary forward that's gonna make people wanna come and stay. So, yeah.
All of the non-union adjustments we did last summer of '22 and the summer of '24 were not shared with this group of important employees because they're
Right, 33 out of our 43 are represented by the union. And so, yeah, somewhere right around there, maybe 32. But yeah, so we're optimistic that we get a contract that will make them want to come and then stay. Any other questions?
None, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And again, do I have consensus to move this forward to the full board? Consensus has been given. Emergency management. David? Feel better?
Good morning.
Thank you, Megan.
I want my chair. It's like school.
Except I would turn your desks together then.
No. Sorry about that. I only have a couple slides. Some of them you saw last year and I merely updated. This one is exactly as it was. This is what we're doing. This is what emergency management is. We often, it's a confusing role because people think of FEMA. And IEMA and McHenry County Emergency Management. We have 3 different roles, right? So I put this up to remind you of where we are at, and you have the printout. So I won't go through all of them. There's one slide in particular I want to pay special attention to. As I'll get to, our workload increased, happily increased. It's where we need to be. It's what we need to do. So this is some of the equipment that we've been supporting. The locals this year, meaning, you know, the Huntleys and McHenrys and Harvards, have requested it more often or more of it for their events, for public safety, to make sure events are safe. It takes some work to get it out there, it takes some work to maintain it. So this is part of that fleet that we have, primarily of generators and light trailers and command posts. As I told you last year, EMA has towed the line since I've been here, that 3.4% was through this year, through 2024. That's what we've done. I'm asking for a little more this year, and I'll show you why. And I put the CPI up there, and you know, it going up 32.71 and us increasing just around 5% after we talk about, this year. I hope that relays the message that we've been good stewards. We've been given a job, we're doing it, and we're trying to hold tight. Unfortunately, grant revenues are way down, and this is across the board. This year, the federal government reduced the SHISH-GAP state Homeland Security funding money by 10%. Almost all federal funding for Homeland Security and emergency management were cut by 10%. We did get word from the state that for next year, and we're fiscal years apart. The feds talk different fiscal years than we do, so we're working on right now, I think, the 2023 or 2022 money, right? So this will really hit us in 2 years as, any decrease. But what the state tried to do was to decrease the amount they're pulling on emergency management performance grant and maintain the level to the locals. I hope that holds true. They're sending out the paperwork now. We have the application that we actually are working on this afternoon. But as I talked to you before, the fifth quarter, which used to be, we used to receive the funds that others didn't earn, right? There's certain things that we have to do to earn that money. Others didn't. Money had been allocated to them, so it's pulled from them and given to us. The state keeps that now. They don't pass that on. That equipment I showed you, a lot of that was able to be purchased from that fifth quarter money. That is gone. And all talks with the state say that it's not coming back. So I just want to be aware, we're going to hover between $72,000 and $94,000 a year in Homeland Security grant funding or emergency management performance grant money.
David, when you say all talks with the state, who is?
IEMA.
So
Yeah, IEMA director.
maybe I'm going to look over at my legislative contact and say, I put that just on a tickler list and see if there's not a way that we can address that when we do our legislative agenda. I'm going to guess that maybe only the budgeteers know that that's happening.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah, so maybe there's a way to educate people, so thank you.
We do have to walk a very narrow line. Each state, the state is given the emergency management performance grant money. It's up to that state how they distribute it. In Indiana, they don't distribute it to the counties. What they do is they have 6 or 7 task forces that they fund. They're on the very tactical side, but that's how they spread it outside. Because they're required to pass along some, but how they do it is entirely up to the state. In this state, and a couple others, or several others, they give us to the locals to complete their job. Emergency management performance grant is to do emergency management planning. And it used to be planning, now it's performance. So the state has to do it. The state can't do it all, so we're doing it. All those plans that were on that first slide, a lot of that work. So that's their way of saying, well, okay, that's how the state's doing it by funding locals. The $72,000 that we'll see in the next 12 months doesn't cover my salary, right? Let alone my staff and all of our equipment costs, but it's a part of it. It helps. So we've always tried to been cognizant of Washington is not saying this is for McHenry County. Washington is saying this is for Illinois. Illinois, you figure out how you want to do it. And the worry is if you hammer too hard on the door, if it's too hard, fine, we'll find another way to do it, and you'll get nothing. So that's why we walk this narrow line of how hard we push on that funding.
Understood, and my question is if they're not distributing like they used to the excess monies to the other entities that are actually utilizing and completing the program, does that just get absorbed then in
Their budget.
IEMA's budget?
Yeah.
Okie dokie.
They've been staff building for the last year and a half.
Got it.
Yeah.
Yep.
So here's some challenges, and I talked to you last year about this. One of the big ones that's adding, it makes the most sense. It's like a hazard mitigation plan. That's resiliency efforts. So, it's the middle bullet in there, and we're really trying to expand it. We had a great meeting with a number of manufacturers 2 months ago, or a month and a half ago. It was really interesting to hear what their needs are in time of disaster. How do we get them up and running? Or how do we prevent them from being taken down so far because of a disaster? opening up roadways when, as quickly as we can, so transportation can get up and running, or energy, or what have you. So really want to focus on making the county more resilient to disaster, along with mitigation of disasters. So that's a challenge. It's the right thing to do. I checked my clock this morning. There's still only 24 hours on my clock, but we're trying to do it. So it is a challenge. We found a way to help us. There's a federal funding process for interns. Well, they call it interns, but it's more people transitioning from one type of work to another. So it's a force builder without charging the county, right? So the federal government is paying that intern fee. And we've had one on for a number of weeks now, or maybe 2 months now, that took care of a lot of administrative tasks. The next one we're looking to do is to look into the research side. Resiliency requires a lot of, so what is somebody else doing? What's working? What's right? So that we can do what we have been doing, our accreditation. So it won't show up on my bottom line dollars-wise, but it will show in our output and what we're doing by utilizing that federal program. Lake County's been really successful. He's normally running 2 at a time, has 2 interns at a time on, I think 12 weeks is their maximum. So he'll have them overlap right at the middle point. And as a force multiplier, they're not doing emergency management work necessarily. They may want to, that's a transition, so it's an opportunity to learn some of that. But that's what I'm doing to try to increase what we're doing, or do what we're doing better, so that Brooke and I can work on the planning, or some of the things I'll show you on the next slide. So this is my challenges, and in the budget there is an increase. It's one of the first times I've asked you for an increase, and it's to try to meet the challenge. And one is to increase the tempo and scope of emergency operations training and exercising. We have a great crew if there is an emergency or disaster, right? There's training required for that. There's exercising required, and that takes money, that takes time. We're also working with that group from the manufacturers, our fire, our police, developing the countywide resiliency team. I don't know the right name. I don't know if that's the right name. That's the name that came up when I made the bullet point, but that team will be responsible for increasing the resiliency of the county from an emergency management perspective. We have a coordinating council that we quarterly meet, and I'm looking to reprogram that more into this resiliency effort. We've been presenting a lot, we work with them a lot, but we haven't had a direction. I think we have a direction now. And so that group, that would be done. We had a presentation by Will County at the last coordinating council, and it really blended, 2 things came out of it. They want to do what Will County's doing. They have a multidiscipline, it's business, it's the manufacturers, it's the refineries, all working together to say, they just had a major weather outbreak down there, and it took the main transition lines down. It took a refinery down. That team goes in and tries to get it right as a county group effort, not just government, but government and private industry. So there was a desire, let's us do that. So that's one of them. The other one is the desire to go back to the integrated emergency management course. Pete and Scott have both been there, we've been there. We've been very fortunate to attend 3 of these in the time I've been here. It brings the team together. And it takes a little bit of money, not a lot of bit of money, because the tuition's free, the lodging's free, and you just gotta pay for food and some other incidental expenses, but the net gain on being at that course, either in Maryland or in-house, it is phenomenal. So there's a little bit of money that's needed for that. I mentioned the interns. They call them interns. It really should be a better name. Everybody in the program says it's a better name, but the interns. And then a response team for recovery. We have a recovery plan that we developed out of COVID, and we need to develop a team out of that. So immediately after disaster, how do we go in and we put the county back together again? So I wanted to give you some reasons for the increase in there, and that's what I have. Everything else is pretty much as it's been before. Same partners, local and state. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention, we've had an increase, I think it was on the slide. The UDO was changed, the Unified Development Ordinance was changed there on permits. for special events. It was, and I had requested several years ago, if there was an event in the county, unincorporated part of the county, of over 2,500 people, that emergency management approved an incident action plan. You all approved a change just not too long ago, or going into this year, that if it was over 500, that would happen. I didn't know there were that many rodeos occurring in the county of McHenry. Now, you'd be amazed that 1 year ago, 501 people attended those and 499 are attending them, but some are still 500. So any event, 500 over, not just rodeos, required an instant action plan. And it really addresses the safety of that event. Egress routes, how are they monitoring weather? For the rodeos, there's a requirement that they have a vet on site for the entire duration. And what Brooke and I, and mainly Brooke, have been doing is approving those. Last year, the year before, maybe we had a couple a year. This year, I don't know what our number is, but it's way out. Yeah, look at those tired eyes. So anyways, it takes time, it takes effort.
But I think that was our point. I'm looking it up, we did that, but I think that was why we did it, is we really felt strongly that that needed to be done. So I apologize, it gave you some extra work, but we really believe that that's necessary for the county.
And here's the way we feel, you know, it's another government requirement or regulation on somebody or a bureaucratic something or another. I'm very proud of my team that we don't say, here, do this IAP, fill this out. There is hand-holding from beginning to end. Now, a couple are going through their second cycle, so it doesn't take as much, but everything from, and Carolyn gets wrapped up in this all the time, or we suck her into this all the time. I don't know if you know, but sometimes we EMA people use acronyms occasionally.
Yeah, that would be her favorite.
So I believe that, you know, 1 quarter of Brooke's time is explaining, you know, the acronyms, and the rest of it is actually what we're looking for in a plan. Our partners in that, in planning and development, and the sheriff's office, and whichever local fire department inherits it, those partners have been phenomenal in making sure that we have a good, solid plan.
And I would just be curious, maybe at the end of the season, maybe we could get a little, even if it's just a written report of how many you actually ended up having to do and locations. I'd be real interested, yeah.
Just in case you guys want to do a little more.
So that's what I have for you.
Okay, wonderful. Any questions? Can I ask just one? Where are we with massive flooding issues in McHenry County? Are we coordinating that? Are we better than we used to be? Where are we with that?
You know how when you walk into dispatch and you say it's been quiet and everybody looks at you? We're in a good place right now. Thank you. We're in a good place. Some of the towns have upped their game.
Good to know.
I'm going to mention too, I'm going to miss somebody, so I'm sorry, but McHenry does their own damage assessment. When you do your own damage assessment, you're also aware of, wow, it hurts when I go like that, let's not go like that. So they mitigate it. There may not be some big project or federal money or whatever, but they mitigate it, or they think it different. Algonquin has been phenomenal for a long time, and we all know what the riverfront there, what they did, and that the water's still going the same place, it just doesn't mean the same thing, right? So we also have better partnerships with everybody up and down the river. We came close to flooding several times this year, and luck, or maybe I knocked on wood hard enough, I don't know, but we've been good. I feel we're in a much better place to respond based on our partners that are along the river. I think we have to do a better job of educating our residents. We have been working with them. As some of you in the room know, that if you lose your home in a declared disaster, you max out at about $33,000 in the federal government. It does not replace your home. And if you've been through a flood before and got a nickel or dime from FEMA, then FEMA's going to say, what did you do to mitigate? Because that's part of, did you elevate like you were supposed to, or you said you were going to? Did you move back farther from the river? Did you build the seawall? Whatever it was. And if you didn't, then your chances of recovery, more money beyond subsistence, is further lessened. Right? So if people know that it's not going to replace their home, they work a little harder to make their home more resilient to whatever that flooding is. So we've been pretty good. It's been more, our partners are working with our partners to be better prepared to respond or to mitigate. And just not as much rain's falling on Wisconsin to fill the watershed. So that's where we're at.
Okay, great, thank you. I
Okay.
appreciate that update. Any consensus to present a full board? Consensus granted? Thank you very much.
Thanks so much.
Nice to see you, Brooke. Emergency telephone. One of my faves. I like hearing that. Good morning.
Good morning. We do not have a PowerPoint presentation. I know, I'm sorry. I am Tiki Schulte, the director for McHenry County ETSB. Randy Sedatine is our assistant director. The acronyms, like Dave mentioned, Emergency Telephone System Board. For those of you who may not know, the McHenry County ETSB was established by ordinance in December of 1989. We are governed by the Emergency Telephone System Act and 83 Illinois Administrative Code Part 1325, which is the standards of service applicable to 911 emergency systems. 1325 has been rewritten and is currently being reviewed by the members of Illinois APCO, which is the Association of Public Communication Officials, and Illinois NENA, which is the National Emergency Number Association, by the executive boards and the joint legislative committees. I am on the Illinois NENA executive board as a Region 2 director, which covers the counties, Lake County, and then counties to the south of us a little bit, Kane, Kankakee, Grundy, and so on. The ETSB continues to utilize a 10-year investment plan, and that helps us prepare for future capital expenses and our funding projections. We are solely funded by the 911 surcharge, and that is scheduled to be repealed December 31st of 25. And so because the funding sunsets quite regularly during the different processes, different years, the ETSB consistently budgets very conservatively as a result. So far, we've been fortunate that funding continues to be granted. However, in the event that the funding is not continued, then that would fall back on the county. So as a result, the ETSB is cognizant of that. We've been cognizant of it since the early 90s. So we're fiscally healthy at this point. The most significant upgrade to 911 in the county has been the method of 911 call delivery. Moving from the local analog copper lines to a statewide fiber network for the 3 emergency communication centers in McHenry County. This project has been ongoing with the state for a number of years, and our implementation for our 3 dispatch centers in the county took place last month in July. We had testing in June and then went live in July. The ETSB is in the process of reviewing our 2 core systems, which is our 911 call delivery and processing equipment and software, and the computer-aided dispatch system, software, both of which are utilized by the public safety telecommunicators or the dispatchers to determine if we're going to be renewing the service contracts with our current vendors or going out for RFP. Our 911 system was put in place in 2019. So we're reaching the 5-year mark. So we have an option of either renewing the maintenance contract for another 5 years or replacing the system. Either way, the cost is fairly steep, $1.4 million. And then our computer-aided dispatch system that has been in the current version we're on has been in place since 2018. And in addition to the computer dispatch software system that also impacts the mobile software that's utilized by the police and fire agencies. We have about 1,200 users in the county, 26 police departments, 15 fire departments, and then the 3 dispatch centers.
How often does that get changed, modified, increased, updated, whatever word you want to
The
use?
911 system, since the first one went in 92, the next one was 2005, and then 2019. So we've had 3 911 systems in the last 32 years, and I've been here for all of them.
But the versions get updated.
The versions get
regularly.
updated regularly, correct, but thank you for mentioning that. And then the computer dispatch software, that gets upgraded, I'd say probably about every 8 years or so. There's just so many changes over the years to keep up, which I don't want to steal Randy's thunder, so.
Just keeping up with technology is one of the challenges.
I would think it's always
Yeah,
an improvement,
always.
right?
Mhm.
Yeah. Can I ask the dumb question? Are you done? I don't want to interrupt the
I'm done with my
presentation.
part, but I was gonna turn it over to Randy.
Okay, as you do that,
Yeah, well,
interject how maybe AI is going to affect
Yeah,
this.
so-
Can I? Yeah.
so that's one of the things is, how does that look, right?
Segue, it was a segue.
How does AI look? So,
We didn't plan this.
one of the things is translation and transcription for the 911. So the call itself can be transcribed and translated, as well as AI can do like a summary of the actual call as well. So it's just one example.
And we did hear about one of the current software vendors for 911 that's cloud-based. They were on an active 911 call. There was a language barrier. The telecommunicator was hearing conversation going on in the background. The caller wasn't actively speaking to the telecommunicator. And the system was actually translating from Spanish to English so the telecommunicator could read what was being said and was able to advise units accordingly.
Yeah, so the transcription was also a part of that as well. So.
And so then other challenges that we have.
Also, the shift to cloud, everyone's trying to shift to the cloud, right? And kind of what does that look like? Because then you're locked in with a specific vendor, so that's a challenge as well.
So and then for moving from the cloud, most of our systems are on the on-prem is the new buzzwords, I guess.
Right.
Having your computer actually in your house, for example, versus just going online and being able to pull your information down through the cloud. So one of our challenges, specifically to McHenry County, but the industry as a whole for 911 is, are you putting your 911 call, data in the cloud? Are you putting your computer to dispatch information in the cloud? So that's something that we are very cognizant of, and we have a great team that
We have the
is
pros and cons of that. Yeah.
very knowledgeable about the technology side of all that.
Security, but I would also then assume for all of us that that's also somehow an additional expense that we have to anticipate.
Oh, absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes. So that concludes our presentation. So if there,
Anybody else have any questions, Ms. Campbell?
Well, just with that AI, when you talk about transcribing and translating
Yeah.
and transcribing, so on a call now, how do you keep, is that another way of keeping a record of it, or is that?
Absolutely. So they have instant call recording, so they can go back and listen, but with the transcription, they can see without having to go back. Absolutely. Yes.
and if there is a language barrier, that we do utilize translation services. And so that does take some time to get the translator on the phone and then have that communication, three-way communication between the caller, the telecommunicator. So some of the
And this is instantaneous.
right, and some of the dispatch centers do have Spanish-speaking telecommunicators, but obviously if there's only a few, they're not on the shift, all the time, so.
It's amazing. If you have not done a tour, I would strongly recommend you go and see how that works. It's amazing, just amazing. Any other questions? Seeing none, thank you very much.
Thank
And
you.
again, is there consensus by nod of heads to move this forward? Thank you. Consensus received. Moving on, Circuit Clerk. Good morning, Ms. Keith.
Good morning, good morning. That one. There we go. Morning, I've got my Chief Deputy Robin Shetley and our Office Accountant Laura Harden with us this morning. And we don't have a whole lot new this year. Our budget pretty much is status quo. I guess sometimes the biggest question about ours is revenues, which are, sometimes very difficult to predict. But besides our regular fines and fees, that go into the general fund. We've got our 5 different funds that are all funded by statutory fees. That pretty much funds then all of our software operations. Pretty much all of our tech stuff comes out of those 5 different special funds. As far as our highlights that we had listed, some of our highlights haven't happened yet, but we've scheduled our expungement clinic now for November 15th. So we've got that listed as a highlight. We've got our 2nd annual expungement clinic that we're doing with Prairie State Legal and the McHenry County Bar Association. And we're going to do that in conjunction with our Amnesty Week, which we've done. This will be our 3rd Amnesty Week. And that'll be from November 8th to the 15th this year. So been, pretty successful in the past. So kind of excited about those coming up. We had McHenry High School interns in the spring. We listed that as a highlight, but just recently agreed to take 2 more for the fall semester. So we start with them, a couple of high school students from McHenry next week. So as far as our goals that we've got coming up, one is artificial intelligence that we're doing with a software vendor. There's the same software vendor that does the state's e-filing system, and they've done it with a couple of counties in Illinois. Will County is the one that's the furthest along and been the most successful, but using AI then to process some of our civil e-filing, the more repetitive tasks, so it does so really excited to get that going. We've been doing some training of the computer basically, so it does kind of task capture, I guess they call it, so it pretty much copies what our e-filers are doing, the keystrokes and everything, getting ready to roll that out hopefully by the end of the year, November, at least a first phase of that. And then also, as we go into next year, we've got plans for we've removed the staff interface when criminal complaints are being filed. So those are being filed electronically 24 hours a day as those electronic criminal complaints come in. And that really assisted with the Safety Act and, being able to get criminal complaints online so that people can see it, so the jail can see it, so that, it's ready to move it on. But we're looking to do the same thing with traffic citations, which will reduce, staff time that we're using to, even though the electronic citations, we don't manually input the whole thing, there still is some staff steps to that, which we're looking to reduce, but pretty much replace by automation. So the AI and the changes with our e-citation, we're looking to, even though we haven't reduced our FTEs in a few years, we reduced from 75 employees down to the 54 we're at, gradually over the last number of years, but hoping in the next 2-3 years we should be able to do some FTE reductions by attrition, as those AI functions and some of that reduce some of our staff load for sure. I guess the only other thing that probably our revenue estimates, as always, are very much estimates. As we're moving through the bond money that we hold in our bond account, I think we're at about $2 million. We started out at the beginning of the Safety Act with about $4 million. That was a pretty steady amount we held in the bond account. It's dropping very steadily now, with no new bond coming in, and as some of those cases are starting to be disposed, that have been sitting out there for a while. So, I don't know, estimates is the bond account might be about depleted probably at the latest halfway into 25, probably the latest by June of 25. So it's hard to say, what that will do to revenues in 2025. We were fairly conservative in our estimates for this year's revenues, and they're looking pretty decent. Yeah, pretty decent, better than we expected. But then we did still have bond money that we were using in criminal cases. So And traffic tickets, one of our measures, traffic ticket filings have been pretty consistent, which at least that's better than we've seen them dipping for many years. So they've been, pretty flat, which is a good thing because traffic tickets definitely are a big revenue indicator. But that's about all.
Can you give us a real quick update on safety? I mean, the Safety Act and how that impacted and where you are, and because that was the big conversation last year.
Right. I think, at least as far as our office, the automation that we did moving into it really, made it move along very smoothly. There was definitely some bumps in the beginning, I feel like Judge Camille would agree with that. But it definitely, and I don't know if you have any comments you want to make about that, Judge Camille, but it's moving very smoothly. A lot of the automation that we have in place really communicates, between the jail and our office, Seth's office, pushes the fact that the complaints are being electronically generated, and that's coming right out of, the officers that are filing those complaints. So the cases are created by this interface, which makes it available, for everyone to access. And it really has been moving very smoothly, as far as the operation of it. As far as revenues are not bad now, but, I do feel like once bond is gone, I think, there are going to be some impacts on revenues.
I'm certain.
Yes, very
and I'm also, terribly impressed, again, and I share, that it's been done, it's been relatively smoothly, few bumps, and with no additional employees or massive amounts of overtime or everything that we had somewhat may have anticipated as we went forward, so much
And the
appreciated.
automation was generally done in-house too. We didn't,
Right.
we really didn't have to, we didn't pay for outside software vendors to bring that all in, which I think has put us ahead of some of those, because there really wasn't, there weren't any vendors doing that because it was very new. So being able to do it in-house was a huge, David Kozlowski that we have in our office, just did some amazing things, and the software he was able to implement with, some of our other software packages really made it a much smoother transition than it could have been, for sure.
Appreciated more than you possibly
Some other
know.
counties are definitely not in the same boat that we are, for sure.
Ms. Campbell?
So I probably should know this, but for the bond money, and I know it's used for a lot of different things, but you get the different fees or the things that come in where we pay for a ticket or a citation has a certain amount that goes to automation or whatever. As you see the bond revenues going down, generally, what was that funding and how do you anticipate replacing that?
It was generally fun, so it's whether it was on traffic tickets, DUIs, criminal cases. Typically then when those cases would dispose in the courtroom, if they would be found guilty and they would be sentenced to pay fines and fees, that money would just be assessed and pretty much pay, in some instances, all their fines and fees. In a DUI, it would pay the beginning of their fines and fees, which would typically cover a lot of the county costs, a lot of the fees that would go to the county, maybe some of the state fees. It is going to be interesting to see where our funds end up. We've been trying to spend conservatively, not really knowing where our funds will end up, after bond money is gone and we see some revenue reductions. So we'll see some, the state's going to see some, in their fees, the municipalities ultimately. The fine is the last thing paid, as far as in the priority. But, even like in tickets, the municipalities might see some decreases as well. And we don't really have the teeth that we used to have to try to collect on, unpaid traffic tickets. We used to be able to put a soft hold on their license and they couldn't renew their license until they paid traffic tickets, but that was taken away a number of years ago. So there's not a lot to incentivize people to pay their traffic tickets. So, that doesn't help with revenue either.
Anyone else? Thank you. Nice
Thank you very much.
presentation. And again, consensus to move this forward to the full board? Yes, consensus granted. Dr. Rain, Coroner.
Hello, everyone. Dr. Mike Marie, McHenry County Coroner. think I want to just first start off with, everybody knows that we got our accreditation last year. And so we
Congratulations.
set a, that was one of the things, was setting a higher standard for our office and everything of that nature. I think we've accomplished that. We've had a full staff now for over a year now. So things are going much smoother and things in that nature. I think everybody got their annual report, hopefully. So basically, it kind of highlights a lot of things in there as far as just statistical analysis, what we've accomplished, things in that nature. I think I just want to kind of go over some of the goals that, that are on here and stuff like that. Obviously, our upgrade remodeling project is in full swing right now. That should be coming to the board here soon with prices and all that other stuff, so that'll be good, and looking to start that next year at some point. Obviously, we've been purchasing new vehicles every year. This will be our last one that we're switching out our old Explorer with. And following next year, because bids usually come out about this time for new vehicles and stuff, we'll be swapping out the first Durango that I bought and swapping it out with a new one. And as of right now, if we were to sell that vehicle that was bought for about $29,000, we probably could sell it for about $35,000 to $40,000. So, and which would be pretty much in line with what a new vehicle costs as of right now. So, as you know, I've talked about this as far as how we're going to swap that out and save money. And actually, when we sell these new vehicles, they will still be under warranty, which makes it even worth more on the open market. So, last year, or this year, I should say, that we were able to get back $50,000. We have that in the operating transfer on your revenue line item there. So I'm hoping that we'll be able to do that and maybe even more, but I felt comfortable that that would be something that we could do this year, or next year, I should say. Talking to Carrie and things in that nature, how we're going to approach this and stuff like that. We just decided to put it in the operating transfer fund instead of bringing a resolution in front, so that type of thing. I will say the grant that we got from the DOJ during our accreditation process really helped build our coroner fund more. So that's kind of what it was. It's like that and cost savings and things of that nature. Let's see. Community outreach. We are looking to purchase a new trailer. I think that's in the supplementals that we're putting forward and stuff for disaster plan. We kind of have one in place, but we want to upgrade it more. Actually talked to Dave a little bit, and we're going to be talking more and corresponding and figuring out how we're going to approach this and things in that nature. So I think it'll be good to have for any type of mass casualty. Obviously, we never know when that may or may not happen, but we'll be able to afford and be able to upgrade that leg of what we need to do. Gift of Hope, I just want to touch base with Gift of Hope. They are building a new facility at Rush, downtown Chicago. And that is going to be opened in the next couple of weeks. So what that means is that if we have a stable person that's going to be doing organ and tissue transplants or things in that nature, they will be taken down there, and Gift of Hope will actually do that on their own. So, like I said, that facility is going to be opened up in, I think it's September 10th is when they're looking to open. And they're going to have a few bumps in the road, but we had to coordinate with them as far as there's what we call brain death and cardiac death. And what the thing was is, since this is going to be in Chicago, it's going to be in Cook County. So Cook County didn't want to take all, have to start relying on them to do all the death certificates and stuff like that. So we've worked with them as far as using a brain death death certificate and things of that nature. So we will process it here within the county and things of that nature instead of Cook County. So, so I think that's, also another step forward as far as working with them more, things of that nature. I think they're very excited about the new facility. We're excited, the other counties as well. Obviously, Lamplight, we started working with them about 2 years ago. We were actually the first in Illinois to do that as far as tissue donations for research and things in that nature for medicals and stuff like that. Things have been going really well with that. Going over to the FTEs, I did a little investigating, and our 6 FTEs are much less than many counties that are our size. Winnebago's probably, I think they're at 11. Sangamon County's more. Obviously Kane County's more, but they have like 25, something like that. Some of the counties, Champaign County is higher than us. That's like a 10. So we're doing more with less. And we have a structure, I think, that we've put in place as far as being able to handle everything that we need to do with those people.
Dr. May I interrupt you? Do you see that continuing? Do you see, as McHenry County potentially as the population grows, do you see a need to increase that? I mean, do you have a plan?
I think it would depend upon what those deaths would be. If we see a massive increase in overdose deaths or homicides, we're always way below state and national averages as far as that goes, especially with homicides, But even still, I look at some of the numbers that, the statistical things that they have, I wouldn't see us having to adjust that for quite a long time, actually, to be honest with you. So, and if you want to go to the budget page, what I did was, because of our Healthy Corner Fund, basically what I did was I moved everything over into the corner fund as far as line items. Obviously, you can't see them, but basically the revenue part would only be personnel, autopsies, toxicology, and body removal. Everything else is in the corner fund. So, so I think that's as long as we have a healthy balance and things of that nature, I don't believe on holding on to money if we don't need to be. Like we have to have a balance and stuff like that, because you never know. Sometimes, especially with next year having the upgrades with the morgue and things in that nature, I still think we can still give, take a lot in with that fund, possibly, like I said, 50,000 I think was a very conservative thing as far as going back to the general fund. So yeah, that's pretty much.
With regard to personnel, you're not seeing any of the same concerns that many departments are about losing people? Your people have stayed pretty much stable?
Yeah, I mean, I think, circumstances are, when early on and things of that nature, we set, I set a higher standard.
And you're giving them opportunity, right?
And basically, I give them a job, and this is what the job is, and this is what I expect, and things of that nature. And I think the crew that we have in there is, they love the job. They've even said it, and we just sent another person to the St. Louis training last week, and she loved it. She was just like, she thought it was great training. She also said that a lot of stuff she had already learned through our office by teaching them, as far as part of their, just going through the process with them and things of that nature. So that was good too, to hear that.
And my last question is, do you have a time frame for when you think the morgue will be completed? When can I look forward to that kind of ribbon cutting? That's what I'm looking for.
I think we're looking at when are we looking at starting? I can't remember. I think it was about like early summer next year, something in that nature. And it would take 6 to 9 months.
Okay.
So somewhere in that vicinity.
Great,
So
thank
depending
you.
upon how it goes.
Ms. Baker?
Thank you. So, thank you for the presentation. I'm gonna go off the last question.
Mhm.
The morgue, is that a capital outlay or is that in your budget?
No, that was a capital outlay that was approved by you guys.
I didn't know if there
Yeah,
was
it was like
additional.
2 point.
We actually have a capital update meeting tomorrow. Gary and Scott and Adam, Tundra and I, and we're going to talk about that and the timing of the use of those dollars. We did set aside some dollars to be used this year, but the majority in fiscal '25.
Okay.
But it's outside of this operating budget.
Okay, thank you, that's what I wanted. So a couple, just looking, I see there's a big increase in contractual expenses in the general fund.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And actually some in the coroner's fund too. Why would that be?
Well, let's start with the first question,
Okay.
contractuals. Actually, I'll be bringing a resolution. Our medical examiner contract it ends December 1st. And so when I first did the first contract with them, I knew we were getting a good price. Because when I first stepped in, I knew what they were getting paid. But they weren't under contract, so I did a 3-year contract with them and stuff like that, and I knew we were getting kind of a deal. So I will be bringing forward next month with the medical examiner contract and stuff, and basically they went up 50%, and that's that's online with every other county and things of that nature. That's what that pay is.
Man.
Yeah. So, but like I said, when I first got the first contract in and stuff like that, we were getting kind of a deal and knew we were and stuff. And this one's kind of part of it's coming to roost a little bit, but also it is being fair with what every other county is. The ones that don't have a contractual one like Lake County or that type of thing. So.
Is there a thought to go out for bid for that?
What's that?
Is there a thought to go look for others and go out for bid, or?
It is, I've been trying to find other possible medical examiners for 3.5 years, and it's been hard. They're Champaign County. They've been trying to find a medical examiner for over a year now, because their medical examiner is retiring, and actually, and he moved. So, but he gave them a year to kind of find somebody, and it's very, very, very difficult to find medical examiners, especially because they want to go work in the big cities, is the thing. And Kane County, they've been looking because their ME's looking to retire. I think she's in her, she's got to be mid to late 70s. There's a lot of MEs that.
Be careful.
I know, but there's a lot of MEs, she wants to retire.
Yeah.
She's like, I want to retire, and, but it's just, there's a lot of medical examiners that are older that, but still do it for the love of it. They just love to do it, and things of that nature. But eventually, turnover and stuff like that, it's tough because there's not that many nationwide. It's a struggle. I've said this every year, is that medical examiners are, there's just such a high need for them and things of that nature. And the schooling that you have to go through to get to, you have to be you have to go to medical school, bachelor's medical school, your fellowship in pathology, which is, now you're looking at 3 years. Now you got to look at another year. And then you got to look at another year as a forensic pathologist. And once you get done with your pathology, you can go work for a hospital for basically twice as much as you can come to work as a medical pathologist or ME. So they do it because they love it, you know, so but it's tough, you know, I mean, it is very, very tough.
Thank you. Just two other questions. The first one is, under Coroner's Fund, the commodities are significantly increased from 2024, and if you look at the actual year-to-date, it's only been 6,332.
That's because we moved those line items from the general fund down into the.
Okay,
Yeah.
got it. Yes, you said that. All right. One other question doesn't have to do with the budget. So there are some other counties that have a outward-facing dashboard to track deaths or especially overdoses.
We're actually working on that.
You are?
Yeah,
Okay.
we were working on that with IT and things in that nature and GIS.
So that will help target where the hot spots are?
Yeah, because we took that model from Lake County and stuff and, you know, presented it to them and they're like, oh yeah, we can do that. It's just, you know, it's in the process of doing that.
Great. Thank you.
Do you have a time frame for that, just out of curiosity?
Let's see, what month are we in? August? Hopefully by the end of the year, actually, because we want to have it ready to go by January 1.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wonderful. That'll be great for the
Yep.
overdose community.
Yep. Any other questions?
All right.
Seeing none, thank you. And consensus again to send it forward to the consensus obtained. And now the sheriff.
Good morning.
Morning.
I do have a thumb drive. It's not a, I just don't want to pull anything out or anything.
Yeah, really, so what?
Yeah, right.
I would too.
It's the sheriff's, not me. Maybe he. Correct, yep. And we can just put it up there when we get there.
You're doing the merit commission too, right?
I am not.
No?
I don't do them. Okay.
Okay.
Thanks. Yeah, the merit commission's budget is controlled under HR.
Okay,
and Carrie,
yeah, I
so-
didn't know if it was, okay.
Yeah, good partnership though. So first, I wanted to show you guys my budget book. So every year, I have a budget book, and this is kind of like the Bible in the sheriff's office. So what you see today is a very condensed form of what we provide and sit down and talk with Carrie about. So sheriff's office has about 324 lines, and you're gonna see about 7 in the general fund.
And we thank you for that.
Yes, but I wanted to show you this because the sheriff has made it a priority with his chiefs and division managers that they have input in the budget. So starting in April, they're providing me not only with what they want money-wise, but details. So if it's training, they actually put what training it is, if they know the cost at that time, what it is. If they have other commodities or whatever, they put it in here, and that's what we look through and propose before we even sit down with Carrie and Pete. So as the year goes on, as they're asking for things, because anything over $50, I don't know if you guys know this, has to be done on a purchase request, and it comes through my office and gets approved and input before it even goes to the auditors. And this is what we look at, like, was this budgeted? And we go in there and look. So this is my Bible. Carrie's is probably 400 times, something like that.
She has several Bibles. It's a whole
Yes,
series
yes.
of, yeah, right.
Yes. So this year was fun, going through ClearGov and adding stuff. Next year, it'll probably even be meatier, because this is what you guys received. Not gonna go through the highlights and goals. If you have questions, please ask. When I do come and do resolutions, I do try to update on the different things coming up. One thing that I'm just gonna throw in there is mid-September, the Marine unit that we've been working on as a partnership with the city of McHenry is going to be finished. So the sheriff is planning a soft opening after they do the paving. And then next year, when we kick off the season, in May, we'll do a bigger ribbon cutting ceremony, but very exciting for us. So if we jump over to the budget is pretty straightforward. We still really do a maintenance budget, even though the county board has allowed us to include, I guess last year, more inflation. Some of the things that we've seen growth in are in the jail. So inmate healthcare, of course, and inmate food. We've come forward mid-year or later in the year with increases in those lines offset by the revenue that's coming in. But really, those are some of the larger growths that we've seen. We've seen in our garage, the fleet manager is constantly coming up to me and saying, you know, because he knows he has to do a purchase request for certain things. You know, this widget that was, let's say, $3 is now $9. Well, you know, if he uses 1,000 of them throughout the year, that ends up being a huge increase. So we've seen a lot of that. We've tried to mitigate that. We purchase from, you know, different vendors that manufacture these parts to try to keep competitive, but we've seen a lot of growth there. Another thing that's not included in here that there will be more growth, and I don't know how much Carrie put aside for it, but we have just started our negotiations for Unit 1, which is patrol, and Unit 2, which is corrections. The proposals are really in the infant stages, but we know that there's gonna be an increase in personnel. Just looking at comparables to other counties, we feel it's manageable, but there's gonna be an increase in there, and you guys will be kept up to date as those negotiations mature.
Do you think the ask will be again for a 3-year contract?
Yes. Yes. So on the general fund, which is the first part of the budget, compared to last year, I brought last year's just for fund comparables. So we projected our revenues last year, which did not include Lake County, because at that time we hadn't had anything signed.
Stop right there. When we built this budget, the budget we're in right now, we didn't know if Lake County was gonna come to fruition. We didn't know if it would start, if it did, and stop in March. We just didn't know.
We did.
We just resisted the temptation to.
And it was tempting, but yes, we are not allowed to do that. So Pete and Carrie do not let us do the rainy day.
No projecting.
Yeah, so I don't know if you remember, but it went into December, I believe, because we ended up changing how we did the contract. It wasn't county to county, it was sheriff to sheriff.
And it was kind of a poker match going on in Waukegan between
Correct.
the sheriff and the county board.
Correct, yes. Yes, and in speaking about Lake County, it is in our discussions, which, again, our discussions are at a different level than Pete's discussions with his counterpart over there. I think they're similar, but they're still trying to recruit. They're still 70 down in personnel. And
70?
yeah, and
Holy moly.
so we do see this going. We are expecting it to go through all of next year, and I would not be surprised, and I'm sure the sheriff would not be surprised if they extend the contract after that, but.
Well, particularly if they like it. So are we still doing sheriff to sheriff, or are we
We're still
doing?
doing
Yeah.
sheriff to
We
sheriff.
haven't changed the contract.
And is Lake County giving the sheriff a bigger, larger budget? Okay. That's what-
Yeah, but you know, it's not that easy,
They haven't
but
finalized
no.
it, but he asked for money for the whole year.
yeah,
Because they're, it's,
yeah,
They're coming to saving money by doing it.
Oh, I'm sure they are.
Yeah.
I'm sure they
I
are.
mean, you figure just at
Right.
$100,000 a
And
head.
my guess is if this
$7
continues to work,
Yeah.
they'll like it, and they won't
right.
I'm
make
sure
a
those
huge effort.
conversations are being had. I know
Yeah.
that, you know, as much as Lake County would like to get up to staffing.
It's
Yeah.
hard. It's hard. 70 people is almost
Well,
impossible.
you can't even get more than maybe 6 through the academy.
Right.
Probably in a year without, I don't know, getting really creative and to get laterals to come over. So it's a big challenge that they have.
Can you remind me when the contract was? Because I know we were still talking about it in December, because it went to sheriff. So when does it start?
Correct, it's 1 year with a 1-year extension, so it will go through December of *25.
Okay, so it was starting, okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So revenues predicted last year without having a signed contract from Lake County was about $2,900,000. This year in revenues, we're projecting about $8,100,000. Our expenses did increase, and again, that is mostly due to personnel, of course, and the larger contracts that we have with the jail. So last year's projected about just shy of 35 million, and this year it's 37.5 million. So I thought that was of note. So that's it for the general fund. I mean, really, besides for those highlights, everything else is maintenance. So if there's any questions on that. So DUI fund is the next fund. Those are fees that come from DUI tickets. This fund has to be used for DUI related things. So we do a lot of training. We do a lot of equipment maintenance on things like LiDARs, radars. And then if there's any other capital outlay that comes through. This is kind of, when I see those purchase requests come through, I look here like, hey, can we pay it out of the DUI conviction fund first? And make that link. If not, then it goes to the general fund.
Can I ask a question
Yes.
about that? Yeah, we have the DUI specialty court. So I don't know if that plays into these fines or at all. I'm just looking at the reduction of the revenue from 70 to 50,000. So, I mean, is there interconnection between the specialty court and this fund at all?
I could not answer that. A lot of this is trend-based, really looking at, okay, what are we really looking at? So 2023, our actuals were 50,000. We anticipated that going up, and it really didn't. We're right on track for another 50,000. So to be conservative, we thought we'd stay at 50.
The reason I ask is we just had
Yeah.
and they're increasing from 80 to 90 or 99, so.
Well, I mean, maybe we will increase on that, but
Yeah.
I mean, it's more money,
I
it's not a good thing.
don't think they're correlated. I think the increase was because they have people waiting to utilize the
That's true.
service.
There is a waiting
From-
line, yes, okay.
Right. So I just
Yeah.
don't think that there's a dot to dot there.
Okay.
So that's the DUI conviction fund, and then we've got inmate welfare fund. Again, inmate welfare fund is not taxpayer dollars. It is funded by our commissary, our phones, and all of those items. So this fund is a really healthy fund. We just used some of this as well as our forfeiture funds for our training facility center. But this is stuff that by statute needs to be spent on, I call it the above and beyond what we're required to do. If we're required to do it, it's general fund. If it's above and beyond, then we can pay for it out of the inmate welfare. So it has to be to the good of the inmates. It has to give them more than what they're getting. Sometimes that can be challenging to determine that, but I think everybody kind of understands.
So it's a very specific fund.
Yeah, if it's not required, if it's not something we'd have to pay for anyway, then we can start making that connection with using this fund.
And just put a caveat on that, there is a new federal policy or a new federal act that changed how much you can charge for phone calls and video conferencing. So we have been in communication with our vendor to see what that looks like, because it's going to drastically change what the revenue looks like. But we have also just recently installed tablets into our facility for individuals, and there's no cap on that. And, the tablets have to do with texting, video, but there's also like training and whatnot. That's, if they have, some kind of training that they need to facilitate to meet their bond as it relates to DUI, classes and what have you. Those are all on there as well. We're working on getting GED classes on there as well. So those have been very beneficial, but that's another stream of revenue that we've just literally started 2 weeks ago that we don't know what that's gonna look like. So I would imagine we'll probably offset the loss in revenue from the phones with the tablet revenue.
Dumb question. Do you have a limitation that we can't make money on those charges like they do in some governmental funds? Or do you just?
That's what that act was. There was a limit,
That-
that was
okay.
for the phones and the video,
Phone
there was a
calls.
limitation. The other is just, we use best practices for other agencies are using to offset, to make sure that they're utilized, but it's not a free service that costs us a ton of money on the back end.
Okay.
But one of the things that a lot of individuals who aren't in the know, when we talk about this inmate welfare fund, the easiest way I can explain it is like, if you have a facility, correctional facility, it really at the end of the day is like a low-grade Red Roof Inn. This inmate welfare brings you up to a facility that is humane, that provides you with, maybe better food, other options that, we feel in this community that, let's be honest, we're a entitled community. We treat everyone the highest we possibly can for the situation they are. A lot of this funding provides that ability for individuals that are, in our facility. So that when this act went through and it was looked at that this was just, big bad government, capitalizing on people, you're really paying it forward. If you want to live in a facility that is nice, we make sure we're able to keep up on the, thicker mattresses, all that type of stuff. Things that aren't talked about. I get it. It sucks. You're in a bad situation. And yeah, you almost, it's like you're paying your rent at the facility, it feels like, but it's making that facility not, what you see on TV of a rat-infested, horrible place to be incarcerated. I'm not saying that it should be a destination, but I'm just saying that.
Selling it that way.
Or to retain people there
Yeah.
forever,
Right.
the long-term
Right.
stays,
For
yeah,
sure.
yeah.
Right.
But there are things that, that we are, planning and looking forward on, being more sustainable with county individuals as opposed to vendors. Because, I and the undersheriff and I have talked about this a little bit, vendors are great, but they're there to make a profit. If we can figure out ways where we can utilize our own staff that are committed to our mission, that we can control the cut costs, we can utilize, inmate welfare funds to be able to do things like that, that I think is, in line with what this county is trying to do.
And just so you know, all of these vendors that we get the commissions from, we go through the bidding process and we have to bring it before you too. So there is, it's not us just picking who we're gonna go through and.
There's transparency and, yeah.
Cool.
Can I ask a quick question?
Yes, please.
So the expenses under the inmate welfare fund are decreased on contractual and go up a little bit about commodities, but not quite to make that up. So is there a reason why the expenses are reduced?
No, that was just the budget that they provided me, and when I say they, it's the individuals in corrections that oversee mostly the programs and how they're gonna spend that money.
Do you think they're going to be cutting services?
So if you look,
Okay.
at, so like in 2023, we really only spent 87,000.
Yeah.
So it makes sense that now that we have the inmates up again.
Was that Soma? Was Soma a lot of that
No.
inmate welfare contractual?
You use some for
We
training
use,
corrections at the training facility too.
we did, no, we use
Yeah.
SCAP for,
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
mostly SCAP for SOMA. Well, we appropriated more to use and we've been using some, but that's their recommendation. So what you see here too is not everything that we have in inmate welfare. So because of the way that the budget works, we have more sitting in the banks. But if I want that money, I have to come forward
Right.
and get it if we need to spend it.
Okay. One other quick question. You were talking about the tablets, which is an awesome idea. Do they have to rent those or pay money to use them?
There are, some of the services are at a fee, like if they want to watch movies, they pay for that. The texting is a fee, but the classes and all that I speak of, that's all free to those individuals.
That's great.
Yeah, so they're all issued they're issued their little ear.
Yeah, so that was actually, we had a long conversation about that. Bluetooth earbuds are super expensive, so then you go to the wired, but then you think of, do we want to introduce a bunch of wires into our facility?
Right.
We had a ton of reservation
Yeah.
until we got them, and you pull them, they snap super easy. They're fine.
They're childproof.
Yes.
Right?
Yes, correct. Okay, so that's inmate welfare. If I could jump to the joint training facility fund. So we're really excited about this year because now we've got things up and running. It's still the sheriff's and board's best guesstimate, but we think we're pretty right on with this. So a lot of work was put in with not only the sheriff, but the other board members who pay the fees that fund this. So this is pretty straightforward. It includes the McHenry County portion because we are also a member and we all share a portion of the cost of this facility, but it includes everybody's fees and expenses that we anticipate. We work really close with facilities. So facilities and I both are in this fund approving expenses and looking at
And by facility, you mean the board that basically would.
county facilities.
Okay, okay.
Yes, county facilities. And we kind of report it back to the board via the sheriff and undersheriff.
That's what I was gonna ask. So they've seen this too, right?
We meet on Tuesday to actually go over, so when we did a projected budget a year and a half ago, we just ran all these numbers with what our actuals, and I think I had to tell a couple of the chiefs that their costs were gonna go up. We're talking, I think Carrie's cost went up $500 from our projection on, you're talking tens of thousands of dollars. So we did a very, very good job of projecting that.
Nice.
Thank you.
So, and on that note too, we are constantly getting new annual partners. So there's 5 communities that are board members and then the others we're bringing in as annual partners and they pay per head for that year to use the different facilities. And the goal is to use that revenue and kind of put it aside for some of the other capital improvements or larger purchases that we may want equipment wise. So as those mature too, we're hoping to see more revenue come in.
So can I be stupid? Is this completely separate from the back offices that supposedly are going to be used at that
Yes.
facility? This is a completely separate
Yeah,
budget,
so
right?
this budget, when we went forward with this budget for the board, to be totally transparent, we built a total budget for run the entire facility, for electricity, gas, air conditioning, all of it. The regional training center, we figured to be about 70% of that building.
Okay.
So that the 5 partners that you see here that are gonna be bringing money into it account for 70% of those costs. What you'll see on that other 30% would be for, the police
The
social work
social
program,
person,
yeah,
right, okay.
and anything else that's on that back. Now, we may expand that footprint a little bit and that cost may go up. There's a space that we've talked about maybe making multi-purpose room that could count for an eating area, because there really isn't anywhere to eat, so maybe it's a lunchroom, but another breakout classroom, which would expand that footprint a little bit and change those costs to go back to the regional training center on that as well. And I want to talk a little bit more, are you done? Can I go, I know I don't need to fluff up. Oh my gosh, that's just, the regional training center. So a couple things that Sandy had talked about, there's a little bit of momentum. We were gaining more and more members that aren't part of the original 5 that are just members to it. Also, we are working with MCC, and MCC is really excited about it. I'm bringing a academy to this facility. There is a huge opportunity, not just for our northern part of the state to provide a space for individuals to be trained, but I think that there's just a really good opportunity for that to happen. So when you have your ears open and you have your MCC friends, there's a lot of hurdles that we'll have to create, and I think, not getting into the weeds with it, but, there's some hurdles that we'll have to go through with the state on getting this approved. But be prepared that we will be coming back and asking for assistance from the county board to champion this because, again, it's just another thing. This is a long-term vision, and I don't know how soon it may happen. It may happen quicker than, expected. I thought this would have been a 5-year plan. This may be closer to a 2-year plan, that this could come to fruition.
For the region, so.
Well,
do
so
we
it
have-
would be, when we look at our academies, Chicago has their own police academy that, is Chicago.
In Chicago.
There's a Cook County Academy that mostly Cook County departments go to. SLEA is in DuPage County, there's Macon County, Police Training Institute, which is down in Champaign, which is at U of I, and then there's an academy way down south in southern Illinois. There's also, what was the other one? Sauk Valley. So Sauk Valley, which is like towards Dixon, in that area. There's no real academy for the northern portion of Illinois.
That's what I was asking, right?
So you're talking about a Rockford Police Department that ends up every year sends 6 guys to. All of our agencies that are always fighting for spots, that there's a wait list. We're trying to alleviate that. You want to talk about taking that third of the state, the northern third of the state, and getting an academy for them? That's huge. To be able to fill a 40-person class twice a year is an easy number to attain. So, you know, we can talk about a revenue stream, there would be, but really it's just the service of the area that I think that, you know, at a minimum, it wouldn't be a cost to the county, it would be opportunity for the county, again, to showcase, and this is, you know, this regional training center, and then other things come with that as well.
So I'm asking you, have you talked about this with some of those other entities that we might be able to serve?
Oh, yeah, for sure, yeah, so,
I'm just thinking in my legislative head, if you've already done that outreach, we might be able to do something to make it happen soon.
We're scheduled to have a meeting to sit with MCC to see what their vision is. This was one of 3 projects, I think it was 3, that was on their capital plan. So they are really, they're having, you know, a good relationship with MCC and bringing them on with a lot of projects. They're seeing the opportunities that they can have with, you know, the regional training center and other things that we can do. So they are prepared. We're gonna have to get in front of ETSB, Law Enforcement Training Standards Board, because you know, it'll just be a hurdle. You know how that works. It's government entity.
But you've already done the hard part, kind of,
Well, yes and
in
no.
bringing a lot of people, though, I think, yeah, I mean.
For sure.
Yeah.
So that's exciting news. The other thing that I want to bring up, so last week, we hosted our high-risk traffic stop training. That is one of the mandates that is required from the Safety Act, that you have to have so many hours of high-risk traffic stops. 95 total attendees over 5 days. That is, I mean, John went to it, it's an 8-hour training. So to be able to get 95 people over 5 days, to be able to get them to check that box so that they're not in the crosshairs, I think is something awesome. We also, when we opened up the Regional Training Center, we got our qualifications shoot, and we had 506 weapons that were qualified. 258 from the Sheriff's Office, 84 from Algonquin, 51 from McHenry, 38 from Lake in the Hills, Cary had 37, Island Lake had 22, and Fox River had 16. We are doing what we said we were going to do, and people are recognizing, one, how awesome that regional, or the firearms facility is. We are now getting requests from NEMRT to utilize that facility for training. It is doing what we wanted it to do, and it's getting recognized, and you know, it's exciting to see where this is going to go. I think, again, that's, you know, you can't have an academy unless you have a range. You know, that's another thing that they see and they recognize. So we've done a lot of good work. We're only, you know, a year into it, so I only expect this to go up from here. So, sorry, that was my soapbox.
You did great, thank you.
So NEMRT's?
The Northeast Multi-Regional Training, I'm sorry.
My
It
mind
is-
goes right to it, and I gotta know.
Yep, I
So
gotta do that.
Yeah.
the NEMRT, so ILETSB is the big.
No,
No,
Northeast.
yeah, sorry, let me go for ILETSB, the Illinois Law Enforcement Training and
That I
Standard
got
Board.
down.
So they're the umbrella for training for the state of Illinois.
Okay.
And then there are mobile training units that are known as MTUs. So each region has an MTU. NEMRT, the Northeast Regional, or no, Northeast Multi-Regional Training, NEMRT, N-E-M-R-T, is our MTU that basically we go to, and when they host classes, they have a catalog of classes that they publish, and that's where all the trainings are. So the whole point of the RTC was that all these trainings were in Cook County, or, you know, for a Woodstock officer to travel to these trainings was an hour and a half.
I know.
And in Algonquin, they would pay travel time, right?
Yes.
So to send an officer an hour and a half, that's 3 hours of overtime that you have to pay above and beyond just the training that they had. So I understand that sometimes we don't see that cost, but the cost that we see of having an officer be gone for 11 hours means that we have to have them gone from the shift for 11 hours. It's working. And I think, you know, we're seeing a lot of that. You know, I can't give you a dollar amount. I can tell you, you're not having officers overworked and you're not having management stressed on hiring people back to cover their shifts and what have you.
That's great. Kelly?
So, having an academy with MCC, I know that it's been hard to find officers, look at Lake County, but here too. Do you think having something regionally here will increase the interest in people who want to be a police officer?
Well, so, all right, I'll give you pie in the sky. What I really think we could do is Illinois, you get hired by a law enforcement agency and then you go to the academy. State of Michigan, it's reversed. There's other states where it's reversed. MCC probably could have a vested interest in that where they can offer what's called the intern academy. And if we host 2 police academies and have 1 intern academy, they could say, be an MCC student, go into our criminal justice program. We will send you the academy at the end of the program and you can be a certified law enforcement officer in the state of Illinois. The county of McHenry, everyone wants to work here. We are a safe community that supports our law enforcement. We don't have the problems that other communities have. It's a destination to work in McHenry County. We just had an officer, we swore in 3 last week. We had an officer lateral from Crystal Lake to us for opportunity. We had an officer lateral from California to us because, you know, home was here, but he wanted to come back home. We've seen people want to work for us. As of right now, do I say it? Patrol is fully staffed.
Everybody heard me say no.
I like a challenge. Well, maybe not. I may have 3. But, and I know every time you say that, we end up losing someone or something happens. But you know what? I can say that I think through, you know, the support of the community, what we have going on, all the things we're doing, regional training center, all the cool stuff that we have, people want to work for us. And you know, a lot of that, you know, not that I have to kiss up to y'all in front of me, but because of your support, we're able to do a lot of these things. We don't have these problems. And that's not lost upon our staff. It's definitely not lost upon me because having these opportunities, it makes my job super easy that I'm not out hustling and stealing guys from other agencies. We're just doing our thing. And, you know, people want to work here.
But that's also because you guys provide a safe community. Carol?
But I want to add to that too, because I was speaking to somebody who is a retired, now very young to be retired, but wants to stay in law enforcement from Texas. Came up here, loves the culture, feels, and to your very point, thinks that it's great here. And not just like law enforcement, but the relationship between law enforcement and the communities too. That kind of mutual support and respect that's here. So, I mean, and that was just out of the blue, we were just having a conversation.
There are a lot of people who respect the men and women in the uniform on a daily basis, and you don't get that everywhere. And, you know, sometimes we take it for granted because that's all we know. But we had individuals that were in Milwaukee for the RNC, they were in Chicago for the DNC and come back and, you know, like, things are challenging when you go into different areas. And, you know, it's just, it's nice. It's nice to be out here.
Can I?
Yes, of course.
Just wondered, is there an update? Do you guys know if there's any funding coming federally or state for social work program? Have you heard anything?
So I talked to Sue Ness during Mary Frake's retirement, so it was about a month and a half ago. And Pam, you may know more in your connection with downstate, but veto session, it sounded like there was going to be some support coming back alive for the police social work program.
Oh, for ours, yeah.
For ours.
For ours, yes. Yes,
So,
I'm sorry.
And then, Alicia, I haven't heard anything since that last little tidbit about the federal funding.
Yeah, right now, they're not in session right now. They'll be coming back in September, but again, we don't expect that they're gonna be passing the full budget in September. You're probably looking at after the election.
Yes.
Right, yeah, I'd imagine.
Definitively.
If everything goes.
Right, and that one, they decreased us, we had asked for 3, I think it went down to 2.5, but I know that there's some enthusiasm about that as well, so, I mean, those are 2 huge budget items that, you know, if we can get those through, in the police social program, for them to fund that in its entirety, that would be great.
Our sponsor is pretty solid, but I don't think anything will happen until after the election either.
Yeah, right, veto session is until after the election anyway, so we'll see what that looks like, but I know there's a lot of support down in Springfield from the people.
Oh, for our program definitively,
program,
yeah. I think we're in a good position. I was talking about federal.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah. Mr. Shorten?
I don't have a question, it's rare that I see things in government that I get excited about. And I really appreciate the forward thinking, the forward action, and the way you've, taken this idea that started under Sheriff Prim at the Regional Training Center and built it, and I can really see the direction you're going, and it's a real positive one, and I just want to thank you for that.
Appreciate that.
Is Matt still on? Matt, do you have anything?
Nope, I'm good, thank you, appreciate it all.
Okay, great. Thank you.
So,
More?
well, we want to go over our supplementals if you guys
Yeah,
would
no,
entertain
please
that.
do.
Because
Please
we don't
do.
really get a chance to go in front of like finance with this. It's not until the cow, so
Please do.
We want your feedback, your input, and maybe you guys can carry the torch for some of these. So we're gonna do a PowerPoint on the first supplemental request that we're asking for because we had talked about when the Safety Act went into place and people were coming to the board, different departments and asking for money and people, we really didn't know what the effect was. We, knew that our inmate population was gonna maybe go down for a little while. We projected it going back up, which it did. It's at, pre-Safety Act numbers for the general population and whatnot. But the sheriff, he's gonna take it from here on this PowerPoint, and this covers our first supplemental request. And he felt that you guys really needed to see the data behind this request.
And before I jump into that, I'll just talk really briefly about our, about corrections. So, this morning, we're at 210, I believe, county inmates and 150, Lake County inmates, and I think we still have 2 federal inmates from the Navy. So,
Wow.
we've been pretty consistent actually with the Navy that we really didn't think would be a line of, a revenue, but I mean, we've been pretty consistent for about 2 or 3 months now, just having 2 bodies every day. I mean, it's something, and that adds up after a while. But one of the things as it relates to the Safety Act that I wanted to talk to you all about was one of the things that because of not being able to bond people out or people, that for whatever reasons, we've seen an increase of people going to the hospital and you have to have 2 correctional officers that sit with those people that are in custody with the hospital. As of, what day was this? On Friday, August 16th, 25% of our total overtime budget, I'm sorry, it's 23%, has been dedicated to hospital overtime. So there's certain challenges that come from the Safety Act on when you hold people and when you don't. And when people are being held, we are responsible for them.
Woof.
Wolf is right, and that's, so we just had an inmate that we had to kind of jump through a bunch of hoops that we ended up finding a mass behind his eyeball and then it being cancerous. He was in Chicago. So imagine how long it takes us to drive out to Chicago during the DNC. Having guys sit on that individual in his hotel room, or in his hospital room, and then having, then you have to have 2 more people go back. So now I have to have 2 cars transport because they can't, the back and forths. And that's a lot of time. And we're seeing a lot of that.
Is that, do we share that with Lake County if it's a Lake County inmate? Or
If it's a
do
Lake
we-
County inmate, we send them back and it's their problem.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
That was part of the agreement. If it's a prolonged period of time at the hospital, we make that arrangement that, if they're originally at our hospital and there may be a long-term care thing, we will transfer custody back to them because the agreement was that we aren't going to.
You take on that extra?
Correct,
Yeah,
100%.
Okay.
I think Chicago, oh, I'm sorry, I
No.
think Chicago because
Because of
the.
correct.
So you have, that's where it's.
Yes, but we've seen individuals transported all over the place. For the most part, they're here in the county, but they're all over. So I just want to throw that on your radar of just another cost, and then the transport costs because of, no bond, so they are, whether they're released on pretrial, release, and I'll show you about summons, but now when they don't show up to court, eventually it gets to a failure to appear, which are nationwides. That you can have someone on a small crime that we are traveling all over the country to get. It's getting very expensive to do that as well. And not just cost, but now it's manpower cost too, because that's another minimum of 2 people that have to go and do that. And, you know, we fly all over the place. We've been all, you know, it's like, where in the world is Carmen Sandiego going all over the place with those transports?
I would imagine you have that data.
We do.
That would be very interesting to share with us.
Yes, we can provide that. I'd be more than happy to do that.
We did build in, we have a company also that will go and pick up inmates, so sometimes it's looking at what the cost is,
Right.
but we did build in additional funds for inmate transfers.
Month of July
I got
alone,
Carol.
month of July, we did 130 transports. 175 individuals were transported for a salary cost of $78,676, a mileage cost of just shy of $7,000 for a total cost for adults of $85,500 for that month. That doesn't account for the Lake County transports. Lake County, we did 23 transports for 172 people, total cost of just shy of $15,000. I will say, as long as we maintain, forgot what the number was, because we get $5 a head for transport to cover our transport costs. I think as long as we maintain like 60 people, we will cover our transport costs. So we've been pretty financially sound as it relates to that. But the $85,000 a month,
Who would have ever thought?
well, we did. I mean, honestly, that was one of the complaints, was that we knew this was gonna happen. But to Sandy's point, we've done a really good job of managing and making it work. And we'll continue to do that, but I talk about hustles, that's a hustle. Of making sure, getting guys in to be able to do transports while not losing any security in the facility that we have to do on a day-to-day basis.
So can I ask a clarifying
Can-
question?
Can I be rude? Carolyn's had her
Sorry.
hand up. I
I was thinking-
apologize. Ms. Campbell and then Ms. Wagner.
Okay, so when you talk about transports, this is for the medical reasons?
It's for all reasons, any and all
And
reasons.
I know the per head from Lake County helped to take care of that. like-
Just for the Lake County costs
Yeah, right,
alone, correct.
Right. So when you say about the bond, I'm trying to come in my head, the timing on this. So you say no bond, and then that kind of impacts when you have to transport somebody to the hospital. If they're not there, I mean, I guess I'm not understanding the timing on this.
Individuals, well, so, all right, there's a couple different factors you have. So for hospitalization, there was the ability to either I-bond or reduce a monetary bond so that the county would be off the hook and not trying to pay for someone with medical costs. The way the statute is set up now for how you hold people for for courts, there may be a handful of people that would have bonded out monetarily, and then we wouldn't have to worry about, that are now sitting in our facility. That now we're required for.
And now
And then we have to jump through another set of hurdles if it's like the individual that was in Chicago. We had to jump through a lot of hurdles and meet with the state's attorney to be able to get that individual released out of our custody so that we didn't have to have people sitting on him. So it's almost actually worked in the inverse of what we thought it was going to. Now that individuals are staying that probably would have normally been able to bond out. But now we're responsible for them.
Gotcha.
There is, these guys suggested, I mean, we aren't seeing a decrease in inmates any longer.
Not at all.
Detainees, there was 215 yesterday morning,
Yeah.
and I know that's the end of the weekend. There was 205 this morning. I mean, it's.
Well, and I'm gonna put it.
I met with, sorry, Sheriff, we met with Judge Camille and Judge Feedier last week, and they kind of echoed the same thing, that the whole pretrial fairness is starting to back up.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And why is that?
Well, so individuals that would normally be able to bond out, can't bond out. Individuals that normally weren't able to bond out are released on pretrial. So we've kind of like, it's been weird. It really has. But the problem is the same amount of people with no longer that bond money. You had asked about bond money or whatever. Now it's all incumbent on the county now to come up with the costs that stem from pretrial fairness.
Would anybody else, I mean, I'd be interested to ask Judge Camille to come in and kind of talk about what he's seeing with regard to that. Could we do that? You care? I'd be interested. All right, thanks. Okay, sorry.
No apologies.
My question was just, so are there more people who are in need of medical assistance now than were before?
It's weird, no. So, and I don't have an answer to that. I had asked the same question because I'm like, why are we having so many medical people? I don't have an answer to you on that. Really, I don't. I found it weird. And, you know, maybe some of it has to do with new leadership in the jail. Now we're actually starting to get some hard data, so we're having, like Sandy had said, when my vision was that each chief is responsible for the individuals that they're responsible for. They're handling it as like their own business. I provide the vision, they handle their business. So all of them are very prudent now and looking at their line items and whatnot. You know, some of that may come into play as well, that this is, you know, we're all taxpayers. We're trying to run a lean, mean machine. But in doing that, you know, sometimes some numbers pop out and we actually start paying more attention to it.
Any other questions?
All right, so we'll jump in.
Nope, we're going on.
I just have one. For the Lake County contract, you said as long as you maintain the head count at 60, you're gonna break even or pay it off. What is the current head count from Lake County?
150.
150?
Yeah, and
So well
I want to clarify that 60 was for transport costs alone.
That's,
So we get $100 a head. Historically, it's $95 a head, like the ICE contract was, like the naval contract is right now. That $5 is to cover the transport cost because we're responsible for the to and from. So as long, and I think it may even be below that, don't quote me on the 60, but I think that 60 was, if we got below it, we would probably be losing money on transports.
Okay.
We'd still would be making money as a whole, but I look at dollars to what they're specified for.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Okay.
All right, so, you skipped my slide. What are we doing here?
A little too much cost.
So when I was hired in 2004, and we'll go through this quickly because I don't need to give you guys history on this county, you know that all. But in 2004, we were allocated, that's when we went from 99 employees to 104 employees. And we're talking about the sworn side. That's the sheriff all the way down to a new hire deputy. That's what we have right now. So this is what I just talked about. In 2004 was 99. In 2005, we went up to 105 for the sheriff's office. And that fifth one is really Amy's position as it relates to a police social worker. You know, she's still a sergeant, she's still sworn. So there's 104 officers, sworn officers, that are responsible for the safety and security of the county. In 2005, we handled 29,255 calls for service. Last year, we're at 40,000. And then you can see our responsibility for outside assist calls are going up as well. As smaller agencies, as you guys said, it's hard to hire, you know, but the sheriff's office is the ones that are responsible for hiring. So that's a big increase going from 29,255 calls for service to 40,000 calls for service is a huge increase with the same amount of manpower. So that's the trend that I was talking about. You know, you see 05 and 06, we were hovering around that 29, 30,000, and now we're hovering right around 40,000, and this year we'll be right at 40,000 again for calls for service. One of the other things that we do are responsible for, I know you guys talked about the rodeo, but we're responsible for details. So when there's events that are going on, the sheriff's office is responsible to cover the safety on it on a contract basis. But we do get reimbursed for those costs, but we're also responsible manpower hours to be able to do it. So you can see in 2019, pre-pandemic, you know, we're at about just shy of 2,700 hours. And then as you can see, as we come out of the pandemic, those hours increased. Last year, we were about just shy of 2,400 hours. I would imagine that, you know, we're gonna be somewhere close, or at least 2,000 hours that we're gonna be, you know, responsible to just another detail that takes away from our sworn manpower. Patrol papers. So you can see again, in 2019, we're at about 1,400 papers. We went through COVID, and then through June, we were already at 1,100 papers. We're gonna be over 2,000 papers served. That's, again, another responsibility of the sheriff's office. Local law enforcement agencies, while they can serve emergency order protections in short forms, the rest of the papers are a requirement of the sheriff's office to hand out at the courts. And we've seen a huge increase of that with pretrial fairness as it relates to summons. Safety Act training. You can see we've been pretty consistent at 5,600 hours. This year, look where we're at, 8,800 hours. I already talked about, you have to be able to have people in certain positions on the road to be able to cover the road, but they also have to be training. It's helped that we're close and we're able to do it, and we're gonna get better and better as we do it. So the training hours may go down, and I think one of the things we're looking at is how can we be more efficient with training? Does that mean the days of the 8-hour trainings are going bye-bye? But again, we're gonna have to work with ILETSB and NEMERT to, approve,
What is that?
2-hour segment trainings. So maybe a police officer is on the road for 6 hours, can do their 2 hours of training and come back onto the road, or whatever that looks like. But all that has to be approved. And I think that's another vision that we have at this regional training center is shorter trainings where we can do more often while they're on the road, cover the road a little bit and hope that we don't get ourselves in a trick bag or cover each other as partners go with multiple jurisdictions. But the hours of training is not gonna go down. We talked about warrants a while ago. So all the way on the left in 2018, we're about 2,500 warrants. Right now, we're like 3,600, and we have been talking about this. Warrants have gone up. A lot of that has to do with, the ability to serve warrants. I already mentioned that we already are handling 40,000 calls. We don't have a lot of time to serve warrants, and officers don't serve warrants by themselves, so that's 2 officer responses that they're doing that. That purple line that you're looking at are notice to appears, what we refer to as NTAs. So notice to appears are used in lieu of arresting people. Local jurisdictions used to be able to arrest someone, they postpone at their PD, and they're able to be released. Now they're issuing these citations, the notice to appear citations, and you can see those have gone through the roof. Well, guess what?
What happened in September of '23?
I don't know. Pretrial fairness, right? So, and you can see, I'm looking into that brown line that you see. Those are summons. So when pretrial fairness started, you saw summons spike to 1,000 and 1,000, and then they fell off the radar. I think there's a reporting glitch because summons just didn't fall off the radar. Looking into that, where we're getting our data, I think there's a reporting glitch in that. But now, again, summons, that's 1,000. When we were at a line where it was 200, now we're at 1,000. Again, civil process servers aren't serving summons. Summons are the equivalent of an arrest or a warrant. We're just not taking them in. I'm not sending, does everyone know Walter Lang? He's 70 years old. He was the one that arrested, who, Bucci?
Bundy? Was it Bundy?
Bundy. He was there for Bundy. He does a heck of a job, but do you think I'm gonna have him serve a summons on someone that, had a weapons offense? That's not happened. I'm sending 2 officers to that now. Those are ultimately warrants. So as you look through, warrants are going up, summons are going up, sheriff's office is responsible for both of those. All right, so as I look at it, the reality is I'm trying to manage and be financially and fiscally responsible of what we're doing here. Really, to make it all work, I need 6 patrol officers. It's 2 more officers a shift to be able to do it. But in the spirit of everything that we're doing here, we've, for lack of better terms, we sucked it up for this past year. I think, adding 3 heads to the patrol division and then being prudent and looking at it again after next year to see if 3 heads was enough, I think is the right way to do it. The numbers speak for itself. We are doing a lot more with the same amount, and it's not fair to our staff. Those guys and gals are busting their humps out there every day, and for me to be, keep coming back and saying, you guys are doing a great job, keep it up, they're gonna get burnt out, and I don't want it to happen, what we're seeing in Lake County of our guys getting burnt out. So I know 3 doesn't seem like a lot. I understand budget, it will be a lot, because we don't ask for much, and Sandy can go through what those numbers look like, what an officer costs to bring in, but, like I mentioned, justification for that, I think 3 officers, which would be added 1 per shift, is a fair and reasonable request.
And so I have 2 questions with regard to that. Do you think that you bring them all on at the same time?
I would,
would that be
if approved, I would have 3 openings and we bring,
And you try and do
I
that
would
right
open it
away?
up, yeah.
Realistically, what do you think that looks like? That you would get all 3 at one time?
I think if I have 3 openings, I'm sure laterals would be more than happy to come over here and work.
Okay, all right. And then the other one is, with regard to the need, how much are you guys seeing the fact that, and I know that there are many small communities that if they're lucky, they have 1 officer usually in the evening shift. How much would you say those calls relate to that? That
I have a serious,
county is,
I have a fear that Hebron Police Department's gonna go defunct this year.
I would agree, and I think that others are going to lose people as they have
And
opportunities.
and the problem, I think, is that there are communities that are struggling financially. There are communities that, police officers, the good police officers in small communities have opportunities to go somewhere else.
Right.
And the sheriff's office is responsible for picking that up.
And so, I mean, I guess I'm asking for percentage-wise, how many additional calls does that add to us,
You
do you
know,
know?
I think maybe 10% would be a
Okay.
fair number to use.
That's a good number.
But I think the problem is it's not really the calls, it's gonna be what those communities' expectations are. When you have a police department, Hebron's up in Area 6. Area 6 is combined with Area 7. That's Wonder Lake. Guess where most of the time that car spends? It's in Wonder Lake, in that area. Hebron will never be seen. They will not have a police car unless we can get a car all the way up there. You know, you're talking about, day shift and midnight shift have minimums of 6 cars. We have 8 areas. I'll let you guys do the math. You can't cover all those areas. If I could add one more, car per shift, at least I could get 7 cars to cover 8 areas and maybe offset that a little bit too. So I think, I understand that we're not responsible for incorporated areas. That's its department, but let's be honest. Most of the people in those areas don't care. They want to see a squad.
Exactly.
And I think in the spirit of, us upholding our mission, it's difficult. But, if I can add another car, at least I can get them to swing through a couple times a shift, or at least try to.
Thanks.
So on the supplemental request, I did one sheet, but at the bottom I asked for the 3 officers, the 3 deputies. The next request we have is for the police social work. This is done now.
Yeah.
Okay. So the vision that the sheriff has for the police social worker program as we move forward is to, and Sergeant Canopa's done a fantastic job, but he would like to move her back into operations and replace her with a civilian PSW director. Sergeant Canopa's done what we needed her to do, and that was really to build that bridge between the law enforcement community and the mental health, caseworker community, really get them on board. That was kind of blending 2 completely different cultures. And now as this program moves forward, we really want to see a civilian PSW director position. It's the same position that Amy has now, same pay, but it would be an increase to our head count, and it would be to the general fund. We do get offset some dollars from the communities and the mental health board, but that would be adding to the head count.
And just to build on that, I think, like Sandy had said, Amy's done an awesome job with that program. To integrate law enforcement world with police social work world has been great. The next step is now to really take off the police social work aspect of that. And that's no fault to Amy. Let's be honest, she's a cop, right? And like I said, she's done an amazing job. We're looking for now that police social work executive director and that mentality, now how we can better work with, that segment of the community. So it's just kind of, that's gonna be, that's a difficult, it was a difficult task for us because we really, really like where that program's going. But now we have to take it to that next level, and I think, that next level is now how do we speak police social work talk and really move that forward. So that's the vision on that.
Thank you, Sheriff. The next position is an administrative assistant 3. This one's a little more difficult to explain. Right now in the business office, I have 2 individuals who are accounts payable and receivable and payroll and whatnot. One is an admin 3 and one is a clerk 3. A clerk 3 is a union position. Prior to me, people were moved around and it just so happened that way. What we would like to do is take that clerk 3 union position and move it into records. We want to move it into records because records is the needle point tip of the spear for our FOIAs. FOIAs have gone through the roof. This week alone, we had 49 come in this month, 171 so far. This is a lot of time and a lot of work, and that's just my person in records. So they also have people in each of our 13 divisions that if it's something that is a request that we need to get from dispatch, from corrections, from investigations, from court security, we're also asking them and pulling time from them. We really need the FOIA support. We knew we would, and especially when we started wearing the body cameras. If there are 5 people on a scene and they're requesting cameras, that could be hours from each person. And we can call the person requesting the FOIA and say, hey, we have 5, they're gonna be different angles, but it's the same thing. Can we just give you one? And sometimes they're, complacent with that, but oftentimes it's not the case. So we're trying to keep our head above water. So by moving that position into records and giving them the support they need, I need to backfill the one in the business office. And I'd like it to be an admin 3, which is exactly what the other person that's doing the same job.
And then that would be
is.
a non-union position.
Should be a non-union position. It really doesn't make sense that there was a union position.
That's what, yeah.
As it relates to FOIA, I just submitted a proposed language change in FOIA through our Illinois Sheriff Association. We're seeing a lot of individuals that are asking for a week's worth of body cam footage just because they think it's cool to look at it. And then they're posting on YouTube and capitalizing on it. So, and now the new thing is inmates just want police reports because they're bored. So I'm trying to clean that language up because I'm a big believer in transparency. I don't think because you're bored is transparency. So, and we're also seeing defense attorneys tell their clients to FOIA it so they don't have to charge them for defense fees to go through the court process in discovery and whatnot, and they're backdooring it that way too. So, you know exactly. But that's a thing. I mean,
I haven't done it.
It's really a thing, and that's not really what the taxpayer should be doing, is funding other people's things. So some of that language, hopefully, I've talked with Jim Kajchuk, who's our executive director, about cleaning that up, because I think it's not just us. I mean, some of these small agencies that have body cams, they have patrol deputies doing it, and they're not even on the road because they're trying to fulfill these FOIA obligations. It's kind of out of control.
Okay, thank you. And of course, any questions even after this, as you guys are going through your budget process, please let me know. Okay, the next one is for the McHenry County Regional Training Facility Firing Range Coordinator. This position is funded through the membership fees that come in. It's included in the budget that was presented to you. We're creating this position. We're also moving a custodian over to those 2 facilities full-time that is going to be funded by the membership fees. So right now we have a sergeant in operations and a sergeant in corrections kind of doing a lot of the coordinator position, but we want a civilian in there who can work with all the partnering agencies, do all the waivers, send in all the training paperwork from attendance to whatever it is they need to send to High-Let's-Be, Nemer, and all those places so that these folks can maintain their qualifications. And yes. Yeah, so.
So where do you see that position falling? What classification?
So this is a coordinator position, so we already have a couple of them in the sheriff's office. So it's not a manager, but it's kind of a systems.
I'm talking cost, I get it. Just cost.
Yep.
Money.
So we are looking at an annual salary of $62,500. With benefits, it's just shy of $100,000.
And then when we bring the police social work program, they'll be able to help out with some of that too, because they'll be in that facility.
And this one will be paid by the fees, right?
Correct.
Yep.
That's
Sorry, it should have been with 33.
Sorry?
This one should have been with the Department 33.
Oh, mine says 33.
I know, but I have it in with the sheriff one, so it's confusing.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Yep. So the training facility and regional firing range is Department 33, Fund 222. So it's completely separate money than the general fund or the other fund, so that we can really keep accurate tracking of that. Really quick, I'm gonna go through the other ones. So we have not really asked for supplementals like this, and if at the end of the year we can absorb some of these, we most certainly will. So our traffic unit wants, it's a LiDAR certification system. Right now, we send our LiDARs, which is our laser radars, out to be certified. They wanna bring that system in-house, which will eventually pay for itself. It's $17,000. The BOCAR Protect system is almost exactly the same, although it certifies our radars. We have 89 radars that our operations deputies use. Again, we send it out for certification. They want to bring this system in so we can certify it.
How long does it take when you send it out? What's the turnaround?
You know what, that is a great question.
I bet you it's longer than we'd like.
It
Yeah.
was-
Well, I mean, so when we certify, what we could do, going to this program and an individual's 3 days off, we can have it certified so they're not out of radar on the regular days off.
That's, yeah.
We do not get that turnaround time when we send it out. And it's not like we have spare radars that are just standing around that we can
They're
swap you and send
expensive,
out. Yep.
yeah.
The next one is asking for additional 4 scales for our truck enforcement program. This program, now that us and DOT and the judicial system are all on the same page, can bring in a lot of revenue. So we've had a lot of frequent flyers on some of our bridges and on our roads that are overweight, and now they're really being charged the fees that they should be. So hopefully eventually some of those fees will roll back into these programs, but this is so that those individuals on the traffic unit have those scales on them right then and there, don't have to bring them somewhere.
One of the biggest problems that we experience on our roads is the overweight trucks. Breaks
If you've
them
been paying
down.
attention to the townships, they are underfunded hugely with bridges. And this
Yeah.
is a way that we can try to help them out a little bit.
Yeah, so, and then we have a request for an additional drone. That way if there's more than one incident going on, we can have 2 drones up in the air. We have the towable diesel vertical light request, and these are all kind of smaller ones that we're putting forward, just so you know that we need them. EMA, as they said earlier, that's great, they have, lights and whatnot, but we should really have our own for our crash investigation so that we're not waiting on other units of government to come out and assist us.
Can I ask on both of those, on the drone as well as on the light, what's the life expectancy of that type of equipment?
Well, drone is just like any other technology, right? The minute it goes out the door, it's already outdated. But we were getting at least 2 years, 3 years out of these drones.
Okay,
Yeah.
and then the lights?
The light would be a forever, I mean, as long as the lights.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, SWAT. So SWAT has been one of those areas that we really haven't been able to pay too much attention to. We've been able to fund annual training that we've gone to every other year in the past through our forfeiture funds. Those forfeiture funds are like at nothing now. So the federal forfeiture funds, we have a minute amount in there. The state seizure funds, we used a lot of that, $1 million of it, for our regional training facility. And so SWAT is coming in and they're asking for, they said, should I really ask for the $20,000 for the week annual training? And I said, yes, we need to do it. Our SWAT team is multi-jurisdictional. This is really important to keep a tier 1 status. I can't speak intelligently to that, but if you ask them, they light up and they'll talk to you for about 3 hours about the importance of being a tier 1 SWAT team. But
When I was a mayor, I actually listened to somebody for 3 hours.
Yes, it's great, it's animated, it's exciting, but that's approximately the $20,000 what we spend. And again, that's a week-long training for, about 25 individuals.
And that's to bring in someone outside to give outside optics on our team,
Yeah.
and then provide training. We brought people from all over the country in to provide new tactics, to assess our team and all that.
Wait, Carolyn, did you have a question?
Yeah, so if that's a multi-jurisdictional team, And this $20,000, does that cover the whole thing, or is it anticipated
it's
that
our
that's our
percentage.
share?
Yeah, and
Okay.
the other part of that is, we're looking at that to be an annual cost. We've done a good job of maybe doing it every other year on, the actual training, so there may be an opportunity to, return money back to the general fund at the end of the year if we don't do that years with annual training. But like Sandy said, it's been coming out of the seizure funds, and, as we get less and less receipt of seizure funds now, just because of that's how the world has changed, we have to fund this somehow, and this is the way we can do it.
So because it's above and beyond the current training, we have to put it in as a supplemental. They have some other equipment that they're requesting, some suppressors for the rifles and guns. The reasoning behind that is because OSHA is saying that it can be detrimental and cause concussions because of the loud noise that comes from that. So that's equipment that eventually we'll have to provide to them. Anyway, they want some breaching equipment. You guys can look through that. Again, we're talking $600, $400. Supplementals are really meant to be more than that, but combined, the SWAT team is looking for a significant amount of equipment. The big request from them is the night vision. It's about $182,000. This is something every year they bring in the vendors and they, put the night vision on and they do cool stuff with it. They really feel that, especially for the tier 1, that this is something that we need. It's a one-time purchase. There would be replacement for years coming down, but we could build that into.
182.
Yes.
Can I ask too, are those prioritized at all, or are they all just?
They are not.
You might want to do that. Just, not saying that we wouldn't approve, but you might want to do that just in the event that we're looking at.
And that's pretty typical. When we sat with Carrie and Pete, and I know that they're gonna present to you guys, I think, 5 different scenarios. And some of them will probably have no supplemental requests and some
Right.
of them will. We've shared with them what our priorities are, and fortunately, personnel is up there at the top.
Sure.
So we'll make sure that they have that so that when they present it to you, they can say, hey, here's our priorities.
Okay.
And really, that's it. I know for supplementals, they like to have the one-time requests so that it's not ongoing costs. But the personnel would definitely be at the top.
And we appreciate the fact that you spent the time to update us and explain to us what's going on. I mean, oftentimes, everyone assumes we have that detail, and we don't. So I really appreciate the fact that you took the time.
And we know that, maybe you'll have the dog next year, so it goes a little faster. Like
Actually, no.
So for this next year, are you asking for a headcount increase of 5,
Yes.
3 sworn, and then the social worker?
Correct.
And, okay.
Correct. I'm also gonna be coming forward to you next month. I don't know exactly what it's gonna say, but we have 6 correctional officers that are on the roster but unfunded. I'm gonna come forth and ask that we take 3 of those positions, and I don't know if it's gonna be convert them to temporary positions or fund them temporarily. There will be a definite end date on it for corrections, because we have 25 individuals in corrections that next year are with age and years of service eligible for retirement. We don't expect
25?
them all, yeah. So this was back in 2005 when we first got the ICE contract. They hired a slew of correction officers. And for those who are remaining, they are now, I don't wanna say aged out, they're retirement eligible. So I talked to HR, because HR has temporary positions, and I said, hey, can we take those for like 2 years so we can onboard and have people ready to go as the retirements happen? Because for us, they usually let us know 30 days ahead of time that they're gonna retire, maybe 60 if we're lucky. To get someone off the list, interviewed, through the background check, to the academy, we're talking 6-7 months. So we want to be able to have, people kind of waiting in the queue that can go in there. And then once they fill them, we can backfill again. We don't wanna increase headcount. We don't feel that we need to right now or ask for those to be permanently funded. But there's a mechanism there that we can really be smart and ahead of
Strategic, it's very good.
yeah, what can
Yeah.
be happening. So I'm gonna work with Carrie and HR. I think everybody's kind of on board with that. It's just what is the resolution gonna look like and how's it gonna be worded and give you guys, it's gonna have an end date on it. Probably at least 2 years out where they would go back to being unfunded, and if we wanted to continue, we'd have to ask again. But that's a scary thought.
Anybody have any questions on what was just presented or anything prior? Matt?
Nope, I'm good, I fully understand.
Okay, thank you. Thank you guys very much.
Thank
Really
you. I know we
appreciate it.
took up a lot of time.
Obviously, I have consensus to take the budget and move forward.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Carrie?
I'll be quick.
It actually
This one is mine.
You took mine. So the merit commission is, they're 4 per diem people separate from the sheriff that just recommend people. And it's actually under the HR budget, but it comes up from this. It's controlled by HR, but it comes up and reports to you. I know their biggest challenge in the past few years has been less participants, so they need more testing sessions. So that's why there's a little bit of change in contractual, but other than that, it's just per diem and the cost of the testing.
I also noted too that on our website, it indicates that one of the commission positions expired in '24, and I think we reappointed that individual. I would just ask you guys to look at that.
Okay, yes.
Because I think we did, I think we re-upped, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So, anybody have any questions? It's a pretty standard budget, it's kind of.
Yeah, this one's more just a formality, I think, bringing it through.
Okay, consensus to move it forward as you saw it, consensus obtained, thank you very much. We have no presentations because we just did them all. So can I have a motion to adjourn? Mr. Shorten, Ms. Wagner, everybody say aye.